Chapter 261, Surprise from the Disciples. Excellent. The clone technique, that's my specialty. Bad luck. Why not the transformation technique? Damn it, I've been practicing the substitution technique lately, and they pick the clone technique. When Ikeya announced the exam topic, the classroom erupted in chatter. Obito grinned. The clone technique was nothing to him. If he could handle the shadow clone, a basic clone was easy. Metkai pumped his fist and declared, "Hard work pays off." He, too, had been working on clones. Rin Nohara felt neither excitement nor disappointment. Her basic ninjutsu was middling across the board, so the topic didn't much matter to her. "Quiet, everyone. I'm going to call names." Ikeya raised a hand, and the room fell silent. Murai Kazuyasu. The student rose and followed the proctor to the adjacent classroom. A few minutes later, Ikeya returned alone, smiling. Kazuyasu passed. "Everyone, do your best. Don't lose to him." Finished students were not allowed back into the room to keep things quiet. Ikeya continued through the list. Metkai. Metkai bounded up and trailed after Ikeya. The testing room was sparse, 2 chairs and a table covered with ninja headbands. "Guy, take a moment to prepare. The exam officially starts in 90 seconds. Ikeyu's tone was easy. As the teacher of Class 2, Grade 4, he'd been surprised how entertaining his job had become since Metkai and Obito arrived. Their antics had earned him his first Outstanding Teacher award, and he treated them with a bit of indulgent fondness. Metkai took a deep breath and smiled with that boyish intensity of his. "You can begin now. The topic is the clone technique." Metkai formed his hand seals and gathered chakra. 3 perfect copies of him popped into being beside him, holding the same pose. Ikeya examined them carefully, pleased. Creating one similar clone was a pass. More clones and greater resemblance meant a higher score. He'd expected Metgai's strength in Taijutsu, but hadn't realized he could perform such ninjutsu. The sight relieved Ikeya. There was no need to petition the Hokage for a special graduation. "Very good, Guy. You passed. Congratulations, you're a genin." Metkai accepted the headband and celebrated with a punch. "To celebrate, I'll train twice as hard today." Ikeya couldn't help smiling at him. "You can't return to the classroom. If you want to wait for friends, wait outside the building." Metkai flashed his 2-row grin and left. The classroom gradually emptied. When Ikeya called, "Rin Nohara," Obito relaxed. His number came right after Rin's. "Rin, good luck," Obito called. "I'll wait for you outside," she said with a smile, then followed the proctor. Shortly after, Ikeya called, "Uchiha Obito." Obito stood and went with him. "You have 90 seconds to prepare. If you're ready, you may start early." Ikeya didn't worry about Obito. Ninjutsu suited him better than Taijutsu. "I can start now," Obito said. He didn't need warm-up. It was only the clone technique. He wanted to finish and be a full-fledged ninja. "Begin." Obito formed the seals and white smoke filled the room. Bang! 8 clones materialized instantly, each mirroring his exact expression and pose. Ikeya inspected them with a nod. 8 identical clones was a flawless demonstration. More than a perfect grade, it was a full 100, the maximum the Academy awarded. "An excellent clone technique, Obito. You passed. Congratulations. You're a genin." Obito took the headband, then asked casually, "Teacher Ikeya, do you know who we'll be teamed with?" Ikeya shook his head. "Those assignments come from the Hokage and won't be finalized until the lists are submitted. I'll know when the list is released." "Got it. Goodbye, Teacher Ikeya." Obito waved, and as he reached the doorway, couldn't resist teasing. "Your lectures are boring. Learn from Teacher Mu Yue." Then he ran out. Ikeya smiled wryly. Mu Yue's reputation had been growing lately. Once admired as a kind, popular instructor, he'd begun to earn notice for his teaching skill and, more recently, his strength in the field. Still, his humility remained. Outside, Rin and Metkai were waiting. "Rin, Guy?" Obito called, brandishing his headband. "Don't swing it around like that," Rin chided. "What if it falls and gets dirty?" She'd already tied hers on properly. "It's fine. I can catch it," Obito said, finally sliding his headband on, a little crooked from haste. "You've got it on crooked. Let me fix it." Rin stepped in front of him to straighten it. As her face drew closer, her clear eyes filled more of his vision, and Obito flushed. He took an instinctive step back. "Don't move," Rin said, hands on her hips. "You should wear it straight when you meet your instructor. First impressions matter." Obito scratched his head, half pleased. "Okay, I will. He secretly enjoyed that Rin cared. They ran into Mu Yue as they wandered the grounds. Congratulations, you're official Konoha-nin now, Mu Yue said, smiling at their headbands. Obito and the others thanked him sincerely. Their progress this semester, new fire techniques for Obito, the activation of his Sharingan, was due in no small part to Mu Yue's teaching. Don't thank me alone, Mu Yue replied warmly. You all worked hard too. I can only teach. You have to learn. Obito wanted to take Mu Yue to the appreciation party and present the gift he'd prepared, but Shisui still had his exam. They'd agreed to celebrate that evening. For now, Obito suggested going to the south border forest to train more. With graduation done, team assignments coming, and less time once they were placed with instructors, he wanted to make the most of the moment. Then let's go, Mu Yue agreed. He had no proctoring duties, and in any case would have spent the day researching sealing techniques if not meeting the students. Rin and Metkai came along. At the south border forest, Kakashi was already there, training with a shadow clone of Mu Yue. When Mu Yue and the students arrived, Kakashi stopped and greeted them. Don't call me intern ninja anymore. I'm official, Obito announced, waving his headband. Kakashi glanced down at his chuunin vest. Hello, Gen and Obito. From now on, please address me as Lord Kakashi. I am a chuunin. He said it in that perfectly calm, straight-faced way. Obito fell silent for half a beat, then muttered, It's just a chuunin. I can become a chuunin quickly, too. Rin smiled, half exasperated at both of them. Mu Yue reached out and tapped Obito lightly on the head with a finger, then delivered the same translucent tap to Kakashi at a distance. Kakashi could only stare at his spot of contact. Mu Yue had to use an unusual technique to reach him like that. Roger that! Obito grinned. He'd grown used to Mu Yue's small, intimate gestures. They trained until Mu Yue called time, but instead of dispersing, the students clustered around him. Teacher Mu Yue, can you close your eyes? We have a surprise for you. Obito's voice brimmed with expectation. No problem. Mu Yue smiled and shut his eyes. Even closed, he had the transparent world, so nothing dangerous could happen. The 5 disciples surrounded Mu Yue and moved toward the spot where they had buried their gifts. Once they reached it, Kakashi used earth release to bring the presents back up from beneath the soil. Mu Yue-sensei, you can open your eyes now, Obito said as the large box, a little dusty from its time underground, came into view. Mu Yue opened his eyes and smiled. You made this together? He asked, gently reaching for the box. Everyone helped, Obito replied with a grin, clearly eager to see Mu Yue's reaction. All 5 watched him closely, fixated on his hands and face. When the lid came off, a set of small character sculptures was revealed. Mu Yue's surprise softened into warmth and then settled into deep satisfaction. He'd suspected something from the way his students had been acting, and a shadow clone he'd left in the south border forest to keep an eye on Tenten's training had confirmed their plans the night they buried the gifts. Still, seeing the thoughtfulness of their work touched him. Each sculpture bore its maker's hand. Kakashi's figure was finely detailed, face, clothes, every little portion carefully rendered. Metkai's was bold and stylized, the bowl-cut and thick brows exaggerated while other details were simplified. Mu Yue even noticed that the tiny short blade Shisui's sculpted figure held matched the birthday blade Mu Yue had once given him. His own miniature seemed to blend the best elements of all the others. The head was delicately proportioned, plausibly scaled down from his real features, and though some parts didn't quite align perfectly, the overall effect was excellent. It was obvious someone had made small adjustments after the others finished. They arranged themselves around Mu Yue as usual. Obito practiced fire release. Kakashi worked through lightning-breathing sword techniques. Shisui trained with his short blade. Rin rehearsed mystical palm technique, and Metkai drilled Taijutsu. Each moved with the same serious focus they brought to daily training. I'm very pleased. It must have been hard to make such a wonderful gift while still training, Mu Yue said, smiling as he patted their heads. At first, his coaching of them had been practical, almost utilitarian, using every method to trigger growth and rewards. But after time spent together, Mu Yue's thinking had shifted. He preferred to let his disciples' feelings grow naturally. Their strength was his true benefit. The system's essence meant that as they became stronger, he did too. It's nothing compared to all you've done for us, Mu Yue-sensei, Obito said, bright-eyed. Over the last year, he'd gone from the class dead last to the top of the academy, had defeated the genius he once admired, and had become known as a prodigy himself. His gratitude ran deep. Mu Yue-sensei, you can be even greedier. You've gone far beyond what a normal teacher does, Shisui added, smiling. He'd become Mu Yue's disciple earlier than Obito and Guy, and though his earlier promotions had come slowly, he'd trusted Mu Yue completely after that birthday. In Shisui's mind, Mu Yue was nearly family, always there, always comforting him. Because Mu Yue-sensei is here, my youth has ignited, Metkai said, tears of emotion running down his face. He recalled how, once labeled the dead last and admitted only through supplementary enrollment, he'd faced mockery and humiliations. Challenges that once exposed his weaknesses now highlighted his growth. First-place marks in exams, better results in practical tests, learning rock breathing, defending his father's honor. Everything had felt possible with Mu Yue guiding him. Guy's belief in toil had turned into real achievement. Rin spoke softly. Because of you, Mu Yue-sensei, dreams don't seem so far away. She'd always had a grand dream, to save victims of war and prevent future wars, but had doubted her talent. Studying under Mu Yue gave her mystical palm technique for healing and the combat skill to defend that dream. She felt now she could stand beside Kakashi and the rest to make it real. Kakashi, the most recent recruit, had his own memories flash through. Mu Yue had found him depressed by the river and talked him through doubts, protected him when ambushed, taken him in when sleeplessness over his father's death had hollowed him out, and sat with him over a simple, healing breakfast. Mu Yue's calm, steady presence had become a touchstone. Kakashi then stepped forward with a small, separately wrapped gift. Mu Yue-sensei, this is a personal gift I prepared. I'm truly grateful for these months. Mu Yue's eyes widened a little in surprise at the extra offering. Shisui produced another parcel as well, explaining that he had hidden his present in the south border forest and had sent a shadow clone to fetch it. Obito, beaming, presented his own, and Metkai declared, "This gift embodies my youth," as he handed his over. Mu Yue accepted them all and stored them inside a scroll. "I'll invite everyone to dinner at my place," Mu Yue said instead of more thanks. With his current strength, it didn't matter if people knew Shisui and Rin were his students. In fact, it would only show he could teach well. Yay! Obito jumped with joy at the prospect. Rin laughed and said she needed to tell her family first so they wouldn't worry. Shisui nodded. Kakashi, who also lived alone, agreed at once. Mu Yue took Shisui and Kakashi to his home in the main district first, while the others went to inform their families and would come afterward. As they reached Mu Yue's door, a familiar figure was about to knock. "Minato," Mu Yue greeted. Minato paused, surprised by the voice behind him. "I had some things today and came back late. Let's go in together," Mu Yue said with a smile. "Minato-senpai," Kakashi greeted politely. Shisui, unfamiliar with Minato, followed suit. Minato returned the smile and stepped inside with them. Shisui, watching Minato's warm manner, couldn't help thinking the man resembled Mu Yue in some way. Kakashi, noticing his look, quietly clarified, "They look similar and get along well, but they're not related." Minato overheard the curiosity and asked, "Is that child your disciple?" "Yes," Mu Yue replied. He'd been ready for the question. "Mu Yue, you're really diligent. 5 disciples now?" Minato said admiringly. As a Jonin instructor, Minato understood the value of cultivating talent. Mu Yue replied with a light chuckle, remarking that once during special training he'd taught over 300 students at once, an amount that surprised Minato. "Mu Yue-sensei, we're here!" Obito called from outside, and soon Obito, Rin, and Metkai filed into the house. Obito introduced Minato to Rin with a teasing aside. "Don't be fooled by how they look. They're not brothers, though who knows, maybe they're twins separated at birth." Rin's curiosity at Minato's resemblance earned her a light, instant swat from Mu Yue that landed with a clean slap on Obito's head instead. "Sorry, Obito isn't normal," Mu Yue said, half apologetic. Minato laughed and said he didn't mind. His gaze on the 3 young students showed warmth and interest. He would have liked to stay for the meal and get to know them better, but Kushina was waiting, so after helping a little in the kitchen, he excused himself once the food was ready. Mu Yue laid out a generous feast, portions for the 5 students, plus 2 more for Minato and Kushina. There were dishes from both his previous life and local favorites from the ninja world. "This is too much happiness at once," Obito exclaimed, already salivating. "So many dishes." "Eat quickly. Some of this doesn't taste as good cold," Mu Yue warned lightly, picking up a vegetable. That was all it took. The 5 attacked their plates with practiced speed. Obito activated his Sharingan to snatch the best bits. Kakashi used chakra to steady and speed his hands. Afterward, they all helped clean up. Once the chores were finished, Obito couldn't resist. "Sensei, you can see if you like the gifts now." Mu Yue produced the individual gifts from the scroll and began to unwrap them. He started with Sui's long, prominent box. Inside lay a roughly 1-meter katana. Mu Yue drew it free and examined the lacquered scabbard alive with a flame pattern. "Wow, that's a cool sword," Obito said. Mu Yue drew the blade and infused it with fire release. Flames licked the edge, trailing fire as he swung. The effect proved the sword was made with costly materials. It wasn't a cheap trinket. "Mu Yue-sensei, I want to learn this." Obito's eyes shone at the thought of being flashy in battle with a flaming blade. "You can, if you keep training at flame breathing," Mu Yue said with a chuckle, returning the blade to its sheath. "But don't try that at home, or you might burn the house down." "Shisui, you must have put a lot into this," Mu Yue said sincerely, touched by the gift's value. If Shisui weren't so steadfast about keeping it, Mu Yue would have wanted to repay him handsomely. Shisui's smile was modest, as long as Mu Yue-sensei is happy. Obito's present was an inkstone carved with a dragon, though the carving was simple and a little rough. "I didn't have much time. When I get better at this, I'll make you a nicer one," Obito admitted. "I love it," Mu Yue said, patting Obito's head. It wasn't the object so much as the thought behind it that moved him. If he wanted an inkstone or a sword, he could obtain one easily enough. Kakashi's gift was a fine brush with the word conviction faintly inscribed on it. "I'll put this brush to good use," Mu Yue said, thinking of their past conversations. "If this one wears out someday, I'll make another," Kakashi replied, his tone steady behind the mask. Mu Yue felt content at Kakashi's mood. Might Guy's gift was unexpected, not the green jumpsuit Mu Yue had half expected, but a cartoonish picture book. A diary in pictures chronicling everything that had happened since Guy met him. Mu Yue laughed in surprise. Might Guy beamed, proud. He'd wanted to give the jumpsuit to promote it, but not everyone liked that idea, and drawing proved a heartfelt alternative. Rin's present was delicate, a potted flower about to bloom. "My family bought the seeds, and I planted it myself," she said shyly. "I'll keep it alive," Mu Yue promised, grateful. The act mattered more than the object. If his students had the chance to give back, they must have benefited plenty from his guidance. Taking advantage of the light mood, Mu Yue pulled out calligraphy pieces he'd prepared for each of them. Something about self-improvement for Guy, a piece about conviction for Kakashi, a reminder of determination for Obito. As he handed them out, a system message, a familiar thing in his life now, popped up almost like a notification from nowhere. "You gifted your disciples your personal calligraphy. Due to your disciples' immense gratitude, the reward was a huge critical hit. You received Wind Release Chakra Nature Transformation, Master Level." Mu Yue's eyes widened in satisfaction. He had deliberately given Kakashi the first calligraphy because Kakashi leaned heavily on fire release and taijutsu. Mu Yue had hoped for something different. It seemed the randomized disciple return had worked in his favor. Kakashi's gratitude triggered a mastery-level wind release transformation. The system's randomness pleased Mu Yue. It meant his disciples could surprise him with diverse rewards in the future. "I'm truly grateful. Today was too joyful," Mu Yue said to the 5. Beyond the new chakra mastery, their thoughtful gifts and their growth were reward enough. His praise reflected back on them. Their gifts were a kind of affirmation. "As long as Mu Yue-sensei is happy, that proves our efforts were worth it," Obito declared, echoed by the others. Mu Yue smiled, feeling the truth of it in his chest. Their happiness was his best affirmation, and their progress was the most meaningful reward he could ask for. 263. Graduation Class. After graduation, the class assignments weren't handed out right away. The list would only be posted 4 days later. It wasn't a holiday, exactly, There were small tasks to do, like having official ninja profile photos taken. These weren't group shots, but the ID-style photos everyone needed. Obito had dreamed of looking cool, white robe, bamboo hat, but the photographer mercilessly shut that down. He had to settle for something ordinary. Students still took graduation photos with their teachers, though those were organized by each class rather than the school. Mu Yue, who'd trained the entire 4th grade during the special sessions, showed up in nearly every class picture. Since Obito had a camera, he and his ninja school friends took group shots. He also managed to take a few private photos with Rin Nohara, just the two of them, without Kakashi. Otherwise, there wasn't much to do at the ninja school except wait for the assignment list and collect their ninja profiles. So Obito and the others fell back into their training routine, savoring the last few days they'd still get to spend with Mu Yue. That feeling changed subtly, though, when Obito learned the new special training came with problems. Hit training. For every minute the shadow clone evades you, 5 problems will be assigned. If you touch it, the special training ends. Time limit is 10 minutes, Mu Yue explained, setting out the penalty. What? Problems now? We didn't have to do problems before, Obito blurted, baffled. He'd secretly hoped new training meant fewer worksheets. Think back, Mu Yue said with a chuckle. I said, you wouldn't have to do problems temporarily. I relaxed the rules because you were close to graduation. Now that you've graduated, no need to be so easy on you. Or are you saying, Mu Yue added, looking straight at Obito, that you think life as a ninja should be easier than life as a student? If Obito nodded, he'd seem spoiled. He remembered Mu Yue had indeed said temporarily, but in his relief he'd ignored that word. Of course not, Obito lied, scratching his head. I just only remembered half of what you said, Mu Yue-sensei. 5 problems per minute, 10-minute limit. If it goes like before, that's 50 problems, Shisui said, feeling the pressure. Mu Yue's problems were notoriously difficult and required a lot of thought. Begin! Mu Yue shouted, forming a shadow clone. Swoosh! Shisui and Obito burst forward, chakra flaring. Shisui flicked on his Sharingan. There was no reason to conserve chakra. The match only lasted 10 minutes. I can't just spam ninjutsu, Shisui thought. If I force the shadow clone into a corner, it'll use ninjutsu to defend. If I don't, it probably won't. Full concentration, flame breathing. Shisui adjusted his breathing rhythm, channeling chakra through his meridians. He attacked again and again, but Mu Yue's clone slipped past each strike, so close it looked like a graze, but it never even touched his clothing. That was Mu Yue's intention, keep them just short enough to force improvement. 5 minutes in, Shisui hadn't scored a single touch, although the trees nearby had taken heavy damage. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire technique. Shisui finally used a setup. He shaped hand signs and funneled chakra into his throat, spitting a stream of small fireballs. Because the attack came as a volley, the clone calmly dodged instead of using ninjutsu to intercept. The fireballs struck the already damaged trees, exploding and toppling 6 large trunks toward the clone's path. Pushing his breathing technique to the limit, Shisui charged through the falling trees. The sudden change in environment closed the gap he'd needed. His hand grazed the clone. Mu Yue caught his punch but let go. Very good. Your breathing technique didn't break through, but you used the environment cleverly, the shadow clone praised. This time, even without brute force breaking the breathing technique, tactics could finish the training early. Still, Mu Yue knew this tactic wouldn't be a permanent solution, and that the clone would be prepared next time, and only real improvement in hard power would fix the problem. 10 minutes later, Obito finished his bout. Mu Yue announced the results. Obito failed to hit in 10 minutes, 50 problems. Shisui hit in 5 minutes, 25 problems. Shisui, you're amazing. You improved so fast, Obito said, surprised. I just used a trick, Shisui shrugged. How'd you trick him? I want to learn, Obito said, envious. 25 problems were far better than 50. Think more during battle. Use your surroundings to create an opening, Shisui said after a moment. He didn't explain specifics, tricks don't work twice, and he knew the general idea was safer to pass on. You should learn from Shisui and Kakashi, Mu Yue added, handing their test papers to them. Obito glanced at his paper and, preparing to put it away, stopped. He noticed the questions were different from before. His page started with things like, Analyze the original intention of establishing the ninja school based on the provided materials. He checked Shisui's paper. Shisui's looked the same as always. Panic prickled. Mu Yue-sensei, did you give me the wrong paper? Mine doesn't look right. Did you mix them up? No mistake, Mu Yue smiled. Now that you've graduated, the problems need to change. Previously, I gave you the basics to shore up weak foundations and boost your academy grades. You had tutoring, and you just graduated. It's time to broaden your knowledge. These problems are meant to get you thinking about history and politics. We'll have specialized political classes later. I can't change the whole world at once, but I can influence my students. Obito stared at the two different test sheets with something like dread. The new paper felt like a more powerful, more terrifying opponent than even a jonin from Kumogakure. You must do these seriously, Mu Yue said. Even if you don't know the answer, write down your thoughts. When you're done, bring them to me and we'll go over them. Okay, Obito promised weakly. He already had a bad feeling about that night. After the special training, they stayed in constant state training until the end of the period. That evening, when Obito dragged himself home, ate, and went up to his room, the test papers were waiting. He didn't want to, but he had to obey Mu Yue. He read Material 1. After becoming second Hokage, Senju Tobirama established many institutions, including the ninja school. After the school's creation, except for a few clans, anyone who wanted to become a ninja had to enter the ninja school and pass the graduation exam to be recognized as a genin. Then the question: carefully read the two materials and analyze Senju Tobirama's original intention and the significance of establishing the ninja school. There were two materials in total: the textual description and a chart showing proportions of clan-born versus non-clan ninjas across 3 periods. Obito read and reread them and still couldn't connect the data to the question. So Tobirama invented the shadow clone, he realized, the same person who set up the ninja school. Dizzy, he wrote something rather vague instead of leaving it blank. The original intention was to cultivate stronger ninjas and improve the village's capabilities. The significance is that all children of Konoha will have a school to attend. After writing that, he wondered what kids used to do with their time before the school existed. 20 minutes slipped by before he realized it. He pushed on. If he didn't finish tonight, those problems would carry over, and carrying them over only increased the load. Obito spent the entire night bent over the papers. His thoughts spun around Hashirama, Madara, and Tobirama, what they'd done, why, and he had trouble sleeping afterward. He fell asleep finally because he was exhausted, then woke with his biological clock the next morning. Strangely, since he'd started these problems, daytime seemed to pass in a blink while nighttime stretched on. Even a few hours of nightly study felt longer than daytime tour. Days filled with practice and nights filled with questions about history made his life feel oddly full, almost enough to make him forget about graduation. Mu Yue's reminder brought him back. Tomorrow the exam results and class assignments are posted, Mu Yue said. I'll give you a day off to rest before your new ninja life. Yay, Obito said, a little excited. The extra time would mean more time to finish those dreaded problems. Obito, are you all right? You don't look well, Rin asked, worried. His usual exuberance was dampened. I'm fine, just tired, he said. He told himself the only advantage class assignments might bring was fewer problem-heavy training sessions with Mu Yue. Get some rest tonight, Rin smiled. Tomorrow we'll check our class assignments and pick up our ninja profiles. Obito nodded and dove back into his paperwork after dinner. He tried, unsuccessfully, to use his shadow clone technique to help. 2 clones appeared, one lazy and defensive, the other aggressive, but neither would sit down and do his homework. They either sulked or refused, and any work they did would transfer feelings back to him when dispelled. He gave up and did the problems himself. Material after material pressed on Tobirama's actions and their meanings. That night his insomnia returned. He couldn't stop thinking about Tobirama's motivations. Only when the arguments exhausted him did he finally sleep and wake once more to the same unquiet curiosity. What was the point of me founding the ninja school? What did I intend when I issued that policy? In his dream, Obito saw a white-haired shinobi with a cold face firing questions at him. His whole body instinctively trembled, and he bolted upright. The familiar ceiling, the same old desk and bookshelf greeted him. He was home. He ran a hand down his back and found it wet with sweat. In the dream, he'd really been grilled until he was soaked. That was terrifying. Good thing the second Hokage's already dead, Obito muttered, relaxing. In reality, Senju Tobarama had died before Obito was born, so he couldn't actually be interrogated by him. Still, the clock on the wall told him something that erased his calm. 10:30? I almost slept until noon, he exclaimed. He usually woke well before 8. He yanked open the curtains, and the warm sunlight confirmed it. Not 8 in the morning. He'd overslept badly. Are you awake, dear? You must be starving. Want me to get something for you? His grandmother asked with a gentle smile. Looking at the empty dining table where breakfast should have been, Obito felt a pang of guilt. He hadn't told her about going to ninja school yesterday. She must have seen he was exhausted and not woken him. He couldn't blame her. No, Grandma, it's fine. I have something to take care of. Got to head out, he said, making a quick excuse and rushing for the door. He told himself he could collect the graduation papers a little later. Just outside, he ran into Rin Nohara, who was holding 2 envelopes. You've gotten stronger, but you're still hopelessly unreliable, she said with an exasperated smile. She remembered how confident he'd sounded yesterday, and now he was late again. If she hadn't made plans with the girls, she would have gotten up to drag him out of bed. Hey, Rin, you got him for me again? Thank you so much, Obito said, scratching his head. Seeing Rin's smile eased him. Everything felt simpler. If anyone could be considered reliably second to Obito, it was Rin, and that was no small compliment next to the omnipotent Mu Yue. Keep them safe, Rin said, handing him the bag with the documents. Obito muttered and nodded too fast. Then he hesitated. By the way, Rin, did you see the team assignments? Are we? Rin lowered her head at his question. Her bright eyes dimmed, like the sun clouding over. Obito's heart sank. With 40 students in a class, the odds weren't great they'd end up together. If they weren't, he'd be more disappointed than he'd expected. He'd have to make time to train and to be with Rin separately, which sounded cumbersome. We were assigned together, Rin cut in, a smile brightening her face. Obito's dismay evaporated and joy flooded in, so complete it felt like being plunged into a hot spring. He could barely breathe for happiness. Did I scare you? It's your fault for being late. Everyone else left. I waited at school for hours, and you never showed up, Rin teased. Obito clasped his hands and bowed, mock apologetic. It's all right. I forgive you. After all, you're Obito. If you suddenly didn't need my concern, that would be the real surprise, she said with a laugh. Obito beamed. The thought of going on missions with Rin had him imagining heroic rescues and adoring glances. He pinched himself to be sure he wasn't dreaming. Aren't teams 3 people? Who's our third? Metkai? He asked. Having Metkai on their team would be great, strong and attention-grabbing in ways that might work in Obito's favor. No, Rin replied, shaking her head. Then who? Uchiha Tekka? Murai Ichiya? Obito rattled off names. Rin rejected each suggestion. After a moment, she said, it's someone surprising in every sense. She didn't tell him who, because she wanted to see his reaction later. It had stunned her when she saw the list. The other students were baffled, too. Akayu had told her this could happen when a student's original team had problems and they were reassigned. In wartime, these things occurred every year. Who is it then? Obito pressed. You'll find out tomorrow. Meet at Training Ground 12 at 8:30 a.m., Rin said, smiling mischievously. She wouldn't spoil the moment. Obito nodded, heart pounding with anticipation. Why the smile? He asked. You'll see, Rin teased and waved goodbye. Don't be late tomorrow. Make a good impression on your sensei. Obito watched her go, already counting the hours. He jumped and punched the air in happy little bursts. No matter who the third teammate was, so long as it wasn't Kakashi, everything would be perfect. Even if the teammate wasn't strong, Obito swore he could protect Rin. He couldn't imagine someone like Kakashi, who had graduated years before, being assigned to them. Surely, that was impossible. Good times were coming, he thought, humming as he walked home. Disciple Uchiha Shisui diligently trained and achieved a perfect score in the academic assessment. Reward, chakra plus 300. Skill perfect. Disciple Uchiha Obito diligently trained and achieved a perfect score in the graduation assessment. Reward, chakra plus 600. Ninjutsu Mastery Smite Guy. Diligently trained and achieved an excellent score in the graduation assessment. Reward, chakra 450, skill proficiency scroll. Because it was graduation, the system was generous this time. Not only more chakra, but an unprecedented ninjutsu mastery scroll. He'd only ever gotten proficiency scrolls before. Ninjutsu Mastery Scroll elevates any mastered ninjutsu to mastery level. The effect was straightforward, a direct upgrade. If only it were a skill mastery scroll, Hayate Mugetsu thought. The mastery scroll couldn't be used on nature transformation, only on concrete ninjutsu like fire release, great fire destruction, or mystical palm technique. He had once wanted to use a proficiency scroll to improve aspects of nature transformation, but found he couldn't select them. That didn't make the mastery scroll any less valuable. It was powerful, since secret techniques and forbidden jutsu could be raised to mastery. There's no such thing as too many mastery-level skills. If all his ninjutsu were mastery level and his nature transformation stayed top tier, he'd be a walking artillery platform. Besides the mastery scroll, he'd also received 4 proficiency scrolls. His total chakra gain this time was 1,350 points. Chakra 53. In one academic year, his chakra had jumped from 14,300 to 53,200, an increase of 48,900. Quite an impressive rise. The first time he'd met Minato had only had 40,000 chakra. In 1 year, Mugetsu had grown the equivalent of about 1.2 Minatos, or roughly 19.5 Kakashis. Mu Yue-sensei, goodbye. I won't see you for a while, Anko called, waving. With Shadow Clone in school, the 3rd semester had felt much the same to her. You'll see me plenty next semester, Mugetsu said with a laugh. I'm in charge of special training. You'll get to see me several times a day for 5 months. Next semester, he would focus on ninjutsu, aiming for A-rank evaluations to get more techniques. Grinding chakra in class was slow. Learning powerful ninjutsu was faster. He'd also raise the special training level to shoot for better rewards. That's great. Special training was so boring without you, Anko said, genuinely glad Mugetsu would be back. The opportunities come for us, brothers, Kotetsu Hagane told Izumo Kamizuki seriously. We'll push into Group B this time, Izumo grinned. If we keep it up, maybe we'll be like Obito-senpai and Metkai-senpai in 4th grade. Kotetsu daydreamed, imagining completing an A-rank mission and shocking the school. Shisui and I still have the best shot. You two can forget about it, Anko said, asserting that when it came to practical combat, she and Shisui were consistently 1st and 2nd. She might be timid ordinarily, but in battle, she struck with force. Mugetsu watched his students bicker and play, smiling. This academic year had been rich with growth in every sense. 265, classic reappearance. Don't ask me, I really don't know. Obito muttered in his sleep as the questions in his dream pressed on him, then woke up with a start. He'd learned his lesson after being late before. Do your assignments during the day, cultivate at night. But worries had wormed their way into his dreams anyway. Please tell me I didn't sleep until 10 again. He checked the clock and relaxed when he saw the hour hand. 8:10. Plenty of time. Then he froze. Wait, meeting time isn't 10, it's 8:30. He jumped up, hurried through washing, pulled on his clothes, grabbed a piece of bread, and called to his grandmother as he left. Goodbye, Grandma. I'm going out to train. Make sure you rest, she replied with a warm smile. Obito ran, bread clenched between his teeth. The training ground was far, but if he ran full out, he could still arrive right around 8:30. As he ran, he almost missed an old woman sitting on a bench, looking distressed. Even though he was already cutting it close, he couldn't help himself. He dashed over. Grandma, are you all right? Should I take you to the hospital? He asked, breathless with concern. I just strained my back, she said, forcing a smile at the earnest child. I'll be fine after a bit of rest. You shouldn't take your health lightly. How about I take you home to rest? Don't let my size fool you. I'm strong. Carrying you won't take long. Obito paused and flexed his arm to show off. That didn't feel convincing, so he pointed at his forehead protector and announced proudly, I'm a ninja. Then he performed a one-handed handstand and a few other little stunts until the old woman finally agreed to let him help. Shadow clone technique, he called, forming the hand signs. It was the plan he'd cooked up to avoid being late. His real body would run straight to the training ground while a clone escorted whoever needed help. The idea was perfect, if only the clone cooperated. "Grandma, I'll take you home," Obito began, and before he could finish the sentence, his shadow clone lifted the old woman and started off toward the address she'd given. Obito grinned. Not bad, Senju Tobirama, he thought, pleased with his own cleverness. With that trick, he'd never be late again. He sprinted the rest of the way to the training ground. From a distance, the terrain was flat enough that he could make out 3 figures, one tall, 2 short, but not their faces. As he closed in, he made out hair colors, brown, blonde, and white. Seeing the blonde sent a flush of joy through him. Seeing the white, though, left an odd sense of unease he couldn't explain. He shook it off and cut in front of the 3 with a final burst of speed. Phew, phew, shouldn't be late, right? He panted, catching his breath. Kakashi blinked. There wasn't a member list. Hiruzen had only told him he'd be getting a new team and the name of the instructor. So when Kakashi arrived and saw Rin Nohara standing there, he was surprised. He hadn't expected to be teamed with her. Why are you here? Is your instructor Minato-sensei too? He asked. With Obito's reputation, it was possible he'd come to the wrong place. Obito looked up and saw Kakashi. He was bewildered. Rin, is that Kakashi? He asked, feeling like the world was being rearranged. Rin smiled and nodded. Yes. Surprising, isn't it? Obito felt numb. He'd already had Kakashi on his internship team, and now again on his graduating team. Had bad luck or some prankster been playing matchmaker in the assignments? There must be foul play in the team assignments, he cursed silently. Kakashi, hearing the conversation, realized he and Obito had been assigned together once more. Then you're late, he said flatly. I was convincing Grandma to accept help, Obito explained quickly, not wanting Rin to think he was irresponsible. Clap! Minato Namikaze clapped his hands to draw their attention, smiling softly. All right, since it was to help someone and you weren't late by much, we'll let it slide. Although some of you have met before, let's do quick tie-ins so we can get to know each other, Minato said. I'll start. My name is Minato Namikaze. I enjoy researching ninjutsu, reading, and sampling interesting dishes my friends cook. My dream is to become Hokage and protect the village, Minato introduced himself briefly. Obito couldn't help the thought that Minato reminded him strangely of Mu Yue sensei. He'd been shocked by Kakashi, and now Minato being his instructor felt odd too. He'd said goodbye to Mu Yue before. This new instructor felt similar in a way he couldn't pin down. My name is Rin Nohara. I like gardening and drawing. I hate war. My dream is to help more people hurt by war and make war go away. Rin went next. My name is Obito Uchiha. I like lots of foods, as long as Mu Yue sensei cooks them. I hate homework and war. My dream is to become Hokage and end the war, Obito said, without much polish. Minato gave a small, approving look at Obito's goal. I'm Kakashi Hatake. If I had to say what I like, right now I like training. As for my dream, I don't really want to say, Kakashi answered after a moment's thought. The truth, protecting his comrades, felt too close to saying, I want to protect you, with Obito there. He couldn't bring himself to say it. That's about like saying nothing at all, Obito muttered, astonished. Kakashi simply ignored him, expression unreadable. Now that we've introduced ourselves, let's start our first training exercise. Minato produced 2 bells and smiled. This exercise is to train teamwork. If you can take the bells from me together, that'll count as success. Minato had learned this exercise from the older Jonin. All of them said it worked wonders for team coordination. Obito frowned. Why only 2 bells? Is it a team success if 1 bell is taken, or does the person who takes it get the credit? He asked. During their internship, Mu Yue had made them try to take bells too. Mu Yue had used 3 bells. Why 2 here? Minato replied after a moment's thought, because I only have 2 bells on me at the moment. But if any one of you manages to take a bell, that'll count as a pass. So 1 person can take it and the team passes, Obito clarified. Minato nodded. If you can't complete it, the training will continue until you do. You may attack me at any time. He hung the bells on his waist, then sat under a tree and opened a book, waiting quietly for the students to make the first move. Minato wasn't sure of Rin's exact skill, but he'd seen Obito and Kakashi train. They were fast and capable. He'd also learned that the point of this exercise was to encourage teamwork, sometimes by letting students succeed if they'd already shown coordination. Rin looked at Kakashi and Obito. "Have you two done this before? You don't look surprised," she asked. Obito nodded. "Yes, Mu Yue had us try this during our internship." "I wish I'd been chosen back then," Rin said, a little disappointed. She didn't want to be the weak link. "It's fine. This training's about teamwork. Experience doesn't matter much," Obito said with a comforting smile. Kakashi chimed in, lending a more tactical voice. "All we know is Captain Minato is very strong. He's mastered an incredibly fast body flicker technique. We need more information. First, set traps, then gather information while luring him into the trap area," Kakashi suggested, already thinking in strategies. Against someone like Minato, a good trap could create openings. "Rin, come with me. I learned a lot about traps from Mu Yue-sensei," Obito said, eager to put what he'd learned to use. He'd beaten Kakashi before, but tactics weren't his strong suit, so he let Kakashi lead. They spread out to set traps. Remembering Mu Yue's lessons, Kakashi sent out a shadow clone to keep an eye on Minato while they worked, preventing Minato from using clones to confuse their main bodies. As they finished, the clone reported Minato remained still under the tree. Kakashi gave the signal. "Fire release. Great fireball technique," Obito called, shaping hand signs, channeling chakra into his throat, then wet a 3-meter-high fireball toward Minato. Kakashi hurled shuriken to the side to limit Minato's evasion. Minato didn't dodge. He smiled faintly, formed his hand signs, and unleashed a powerful fire technique of his own. Although he rarely used basic elemental jutsu in real combat because of his reliance on the flying thunder god technique, he still knew the fundamentals. A roaring wall of flame shot from his mouth, eclipsing Obito's fireball and continuing toward Obito and Kakashi. "Fire release, flame bullet," Minato called. Kakashi mentally logged the technique and ducked. He glanced at Obito, who nodded, and together they ran toward the area where their traps had been laid. As Minato moved into the forest, Rin triggered her traps. A volley of shurikens sailed toward Minato. "Wind release, great breakthrough," Minato intoned, exhaling a massive gust that blew the projectiles aside. Kakashi noted that Minato had used wind release as well. Jonin commonly had 2 nature transformations. "Leaf Great Whirlwind," Obito shouted, charging in with a spinning kick aimed at Minato as the projectiles flew. Minato parried gracefully. "Your coordination is decent, but you'd be better with another person joined in," he said, seizing Obito's leg and lifting him up. He didn't understand why Kakashi hadn't attacked with him. "Heh, Minato-sensei, you should be careful. We've got more than one trick," Obito said, still laughing even as he was caught. Minato tossed Obito toward a nearby tree. Obito exploded into smoke on impact. He'd been a shadow clone. A shadow clone capable of a fire release at that level? Minato mused, surprised at their skill. He had no time to dwell. Kakashi and the others were coordinating tightly. Almost immediately, 2 thick wooden pillars came crashing toward him. Minato's chakra flared at his feet, and he slipped quickly to his left, toward a more open stretch of ground. He tossed a flying thunder god kunai at Kakashi and Rin, his eyes scanning for Obito's true body. Kakashi and Rin easily evaded the casual throw and pressed in. Kakashi drew a kunai and aimed for Minato's vital points again and again, but Minato's skill with a blade was superior. He calmly parried every strike. Rin's harassment had little effect either. That had been their plan all along. While Minato was occupied blocking Kakashi's stab toward his chest, Rin gathered a huge amount of chakra in her arm to bolster her strength, then unleashed a single, wordless strike, the strength of 100 technique. The momentum behind the punch was unmistakable. Even someone who didn't understand chakra could see how different the impact was. Minato braced, using his own strength to shove Kakashi back, then condensed chakra into his palm and met Rin's blow. The collision sounded like a thunderclap. The force knocked Minato 2 meters backward. "Such power," he murmured, genuinely surprised. "I didn't expect this seemingly ordinary child to be so strong." Rin's slender form hit a shocking amount of force. She was a fresh graduate. This level of power was impressive. Kakashi seized the opening and lunged, forcing Minato to flash back. Minato was considering whether to show more of his strength when a prick of danger rose in his senses. Kakashi froze, forming hand signs. "Explode. Fire release. Phoenix Sage Fire Technique. Obito's main body had appeared atop a nearby tree and spat dozens of small fireballs, sealing the area. The explosive tags Kakashi had buried detonated beneath Minato, and a fierce blaze swallowed his position. Thick smoke hid everything. Obito jumped down and stood beside Rin, scratching his head. What should we do? We didn't kill Minato-sensei, did we? He didn't dodge, did he? We're doomed. Minato-sensei is Mu Yue-sensei's friend, Rin wailed. Kakashi gave him a look. Do you know the scale of your own strength? It took the three of us together to take down a jonin from Kumogakure. Minato isn't some ordinary jonin. He wouldn't fall that easily. Maybe not, Rin hedged. Nervous, she had the least combat experience of the three and felt Minato was in serious danger. The smoke dispersed to reveal charred earth, but no sign of Minato. Kakashi tensed. He had no idea how Minato had vanished. You really surprised me. It seems I need to take you all more seriously. Minato's voice came from behind them. Kakashi spun and found Minato smiling, unharmed. Obito immediately stepped between Rin and Minato, entering an intense breathing state. That speed, hard to deal with, Kakashi said, not overly stunned. Mu Yue had already spoken of Minato's strength. But Minato couldn't help feeling impressed and a little proud. These three students, 9 years old, were strong. Obito's fire release, Rin's brute strength, Kakashi's tactics and traps. Together, their abilities far outmatched most peers. Minato tossed a handful of Flying Thunder God kunai at them. Obito swung a kunai to block and planted the blade into the ground. Kakashi and Obito exchanged a glance and nodded. Fire release, great fireball technique. Obito concentrated chakra in his throat, performed nature transformation, and unleashed a massive fireball over 4 meters across. Kakashi silently leaped onto a tree and used it to spring toward Minato while hurling shuriken to pin his position. Just as the fireball descended, Minato vanished. Both the fire and the shuriken missed. Kakashi scanned for him. Bang! Minato reappeared beside Obito and Rin, striking with blistering taijutsu that sent both flying into a tree. So fast! Obito scrambled up in surprise. Minato had simply appeared and knocked them back. Kakashi, having located Minato, furrowed his brow in thought. He'd seen a kunai where Minato had appeared. Could there be a connection? Kakashi noted the 2 kunai positions and launched another attack. Rin, unwilling to be a burden, struggled up and took a fighting stance. The 3 of them spread out to surround Minato. Obito moved first. He couldn't hold his intense breathing state long and needed to end the fight quickly. He charged. Rin again used strength of 100. Kakashi used body flicker, kunai in hand, aiming for Minato. Minato calmly threw a kunai toward Obito. Obito sidestepped and the kunai vanished with him. Minato reappeared behind Obito and punched him to the ground. It must be tied to the kunai. Kakashi realized Minato's teleportation was connected to the thrown kunai. Obito's temper flared. With Rin right there and repeatedly getting knocked down, he unleashed flame on his feet to boost his kicks and, with one hand forming seals, spat several small fireballs at Minato. Minato was startled. Obito had been lying on the ground. He shouldn't have been able to form hand seals. Once again, Minato vanished. Kakashi exploded his own chakra and surged toward the Flying Thunder God kunai. There were 3 such kunai on the field. One from the opening throw, one Minato had used to attack Obito and Rin, and another that had knocked Obito down. Kakashi aimed for the second kunai, closest to Rin and the most likely spot for Minato to reappear. Full concentration, lightning breathing. Kakashi bolstered his legs with lightning release and raced for the kunai. Minato, who had intended to strike Rin, saw Kakashi coming and shifted from offense to defense. Has he already figured out Flying Thunder God? What analytic speed, Minato thought. He reacted even faster than Kakashi, though Kakashi's decisive assault still failed to land. Kakashi, undeterred, smiled beneath his mask. Minato suddenly noticed the explosive tag attached to Kakashi. Explode. Boom. An explosion engulfed them both in fire. Obito exhaled in relief. Kakashi hadn't actually sacrificed himself. He'd been using shadow clones as bait from the start. Obito's shadow clone had been the first bait, Kakashi's clone the second. When the smoke cleared, the scorched ground showed nothing else. Minato reappeared at the position of the first Flying Thunder God kunai, but Kakashi, crackling with purple lightning, was already charging at him. The lightning split into a swarm of serpentine currents and surged in. Minato dodged, but Kakashi wasn't trying to strike his body. He was after the bell at Minato's waist. A bolt struck the bell, dislodging it, and Kakashi snatched it up with lightning speed. "Minato-sensei, does this count as success?" Kakashi asked, calm. "Success," Minato said with a smile. "Honestly, your performance surprised me." He'd held back a great deal. He hadn't used his senses fully, and yet they'd pushed him hard. Obito's fire release was powerful and had an unfamiliar release style. If Obito hadn't burned off Minato's earlier Phoenix Sage Fire, Minato might not have had to use Flying Thunder God twice. Kakashi's combat intelligence stood out. In a few exchanges, he deduced Flying Thunder God's mechanism and devised a plan to snatch the bell. Rin had also had her moments. Her punch had forced Minato to teleport defensively. These three, even a normal Jonin, might be hard-pressed against them, Minato thought. He felt proud of his students' teamwork. "It's finally over. Minato-sensei, you're incredibly fast," Obito said as he came up to support Kakashi. Mu Yue was fast too, but in a different way. Mu Yue's speed left a blur of blue, while Minato's speed felt like appearing and vanishing from nowhere. "Sorry, I didn't do much," Rin said, feeling she'd just muddled through. She'd focused on medical ninjutsu and rarely fought in real battles, and it showed. "That's not true," Obito protested. "If you hadn't helped, Kakashi's clone would have been taken out earlier. And that punch where you knocked Minato back, that was awesome." Obito wasn't flattering her just because he liked Rin. He genuinely believed the fight would have gone differently without her. "Obito's right," Kakashi added. "You play a different role. You're support, not frontline damage. It's good team composition. If we get hurt, you can patch us up." Rin brightened and resolved to train her taijutsu harder so she could contribute more. Minato mused on the internship Mu Yue had organized. If all graduates coordinated like these three, the village's genin strength would improve greatly. Obito and Kakashi worked especially well together. Often a glance was enough. "You finished earlier than I expected," Minato said. "Rest today and practice coordination. Tomorrow, I'll take you on a mission." "Yay! Missions!" Obito cheered, already eager for more fights in Rin's praise. "Ninja missions," Rin repeated, a small excitement building as she thought of what lay ahead. "I didn't expect to be teammates with you, Guy. My luck's really good." Shiranui Genma smiled as he walked with Might Guy toward the training ground. Compared to ordinary classmates, he'd much prefer powerful teammates like Obito or Guy, reliable partners on missions and good sources of training tips. "Can I ask you about taijutsu sometimes?" Genma asked. "Of course, no problem." Might Guy flashed a thumbs up. He liked teaching. They reached the training ground and found Ebisu already waiting. "Ebisu, morning," Genma called. Ebisu nodded. "Good morning." Then Genma glanced around. "Where's the instructor? This is the meeting point." "The meeting point is here. He might be delayed," Ebisu said. "Youth should seize every minute," Might Guy declared and immediately dropped to do one-finger push-ups, motioning them to join. "Haha, I'll pass. My stamina's not as good as yours, Guy. Let's wait for the instructor and see what happens." Genma politely declined. It was their first time meeting the instructor. They didn't know what was planned and wanted to conserve energy. Ebisu felt the same and stayed put. After 5 minutes, a middle-aged man in a yellow tracksuit and tights appeared, slowly walking toward them while eating a rice ball. "You Shiranui Genma, Ebisu and Might Guy?" he asked, almost done with the rice ball. "I'm Shiranui Genma. Ebisu." "I am Might Guy." Guy did a backflip and answered with a wide grin. "Do you all know each other?" the man asked. The three nodded. "Then let's skip introductions. I'm Chen Long. Call me Teacher Chen. I won't waste time. If you fail my training, you'll return to the ninja school." He said it plainly. "Return to the ninja school?" Genma froze. They'd been told they were officially graduated genin. How could they be sent back? "Teacher Chen?" Ebisu's glasses flashed with surprised recognition. He'd heard the name. Chen was reputed to be Konoha's strongest taijutsu user. "It can't be. If it is, I have to pass." "That's right. Fail my test and I'll revoke your ninja status and send you back. That's the authority I have as an instructor." Teacher Chen took out a bell and held it up. He seemed uninterested in theatrics. "Show me what you can do," he was saying, "and you'll pass. If not, back to the school you go." Teacher Chen hadn't been a formal instructor for long, only accepting students occasionally so his art wouldn't die out. But when Hiruzen Sarutobi told him there was a taijutsu prodigy at the academy, Chen agreed to return to test the rumor himself. If the kid wasn't what Hiruzen claimed, Chen intended to send them back and walk away for good. "What kind of training is it?" Metkai asked calmly, confident in his own strength. Genin-level tasks were not much to him. "Bell snatching," Teacher Chen said. "If one of you can snatch the bell from my hand, you all pass. If not by nightfall, prepare to repeat a year at the academy." He casually put the bell away and sat down, drawing a book with a lightly dressed young woman on the cover, and began to read. "You can use any means to try," Chen added, still relaxed. "But heed my warning, don't attack recklessly. I specialize in taijutsu, and it hurts." Genma, Ebisu, and Guy pulled aside to plan. "He doesn't sound like he's joking," Genma said. "If we fail, we really could lose our ninja status." "Let's do our best," Ebisu said. "If we impress him, he might even take us as disciples. He's known as Konoha's strongest taijutsu ninja." "How can he be Konoha's strongest?" Genma eyed the not very tall, not very buff man reading a risque book. He didn't look imposing. Guy's face lit up. "Konoha's strongest taijutsu." That was his dream, to be the world's greatest taijutsu master. Facing Chen was an honor and a challenge. "There's no mistake. They call him Teacher Chen, and he said he's good at taijutsu," Ebisu confirmed, sliding his sunglasses up. "So it might be worse for us if he really is the strongest," Genma fretted. "How can we steal a bell from him?" "Fight with everything you've got," Guy said, giving Greth a thumbs up. "If we fail, it just means we didn't burn our youth brightly enough." Genma relaxed bit by bit. Still, they agreed they needed a plan. Ebisu suggested traps to lure Chen in. Guy would be the main attacker, while Genma and Ebisu supported. They each reviewed their strengths. Genma good with tools and body flicker, Ebisu balanced, and Guy a taijutsu specialist, the real trump card. When they were ready, the three lured Teacher Chen toward the trap. Shuriken whistled through the air as Ebisu and Genma hurled them. Teacher Chen slowly closed his book, put it away, and the shuriken neared. He flashed forward and dodged with shocking speed. "So fast," Genma whispered, starting to believe the rumors. "Run!" Ebisu snapped, worried Chen would close the distance before they reached the trap zone. Guy held back. He wanted to test Chen, but couldn't risk a reckless move that might cost his teammates their ninja status. Chen didn't sprint at full speed. He kept a measured distance while following them. When they reached the trap area, Ebisu triggered the devices, unleashing a barrage of shuriken. Chen barely blinked. Disappointed, he said, "Is that all?" "Leaf Dragon God," he shouted, releasing chakra and spinning at tremendous speed. A massive, green tornado coalesced into the shape of a dragon. The whirlwind obliterated the shuriken traps and swept across the field, tearing through their defenses. Kunai clattered to the ground. Genma stared at the ruined trap zone, his heart sinking. 30 feet tall, the green dragon-shaped hurricane loomed before them. How could he possibly snatch the bell through that? "This is Konoha's strongest taijutsu?" Ebisu gasped, astonished at the scale. "What powerful taijutsu?" Guy's surprise was edged with exhilaration. He was eager for the fight. He steadied his breathing, centering himself. "If traps won't work, then it's time for the taijutsu beast to appear," Guy said, full of fighting spirit and ready to charge. "If this is all you've got, you might as well go back to the academy," Teacher Chen said, disappointed after dismantling all their traps. "The world of Shinobi is far harsher than you imagine. If you're not good enough, you should train more before stepping out. Maybe we aren't the best at making traps, but don't count us out." Guy snapped, clenching his fists. Total concentration, rock breathing. Guy inhaled deeply, pulling in oxygen and synchronizing his chakra with each breath to strengthen his body. Leaf Whirlwind. He channeled power into his leg and charged Teacher Chen, delivering his trademark whirlwind kick. The gust of wind ruffled Teacher Chen's hair and briefly piqued the older man's interest. Teacher Chen calmly caught the kick with one hand and flicked Guy away. "Good speed, but it lacks power," he said. Guy landed, reset his balance, and glared. "Still better than those two over there. Were you reading too many strange books? While your comrade attacks, you just stand and stare?" Teacher Chen teased Shiranui Genma and Ebisu, who were still reeling from Guy's attack. Flushed with embarrassment, they hurled ninja tools at the teacher, but he sidestepped them easily. "Not enough power? Then try this." Might Guy laughed and charged again, this time pushing harder. Leaf strong whirlwind. The force of Guy's kick bent the grass and stirred the air. Teacher Chen simply gathered chakra into his arm, caught the blow, and threw Guy much farther this time. Guy carved a 10-meter trench through the earth before stopping. Genma and Ebisu rushed in behind him, but they were no match for Guy's speed and arrived too late. Genma lunged with a punch toward Chen's head while Ebisu reached for the bell at Chen's waist. Grabbing the bell was the point of the test, after all. Teacher Chen answered with a whirlwind kick, blasting them both away. Genma smashed into a tree, winded and grimacing. Ebisu slammed into the ground. "You're weak, your movements are slow, and your taijutsu is pathetic," Chen mocked as he retracted his leg. "You expect to snatch my bell?" Genma, his face burning with humiliation, he'd always been among the top 4th grade students, fired off another desperate attack. He drew a kunai and used the body flicker technique, but Chen moved faster. Just as Genma thought he had a chance, Chen vanished from in front of him and reappeared behind him, delivering a kick to his backside that sent him flying again. 8 gates. Gate of opening. Open, Might Guy called, activating the first of the 8 gates and releasing a surge of chakra that magnified his strength. He dashed forward to catch the airborne Genma. "Thanks, Guy. I was too hasty," Genma said when Guy grabbed him, calming down. Going up against someone known as Konoha's strongest taijutsu user alone had been reckless. "No problem. Can't stand being denied," Guy said cheerfully. Ebisu regrouped warily with them. Teacher Chen watched without interrupting. The only one who caught his attention was Guy. The other two were simply ordinary. "Genma and I will go first." "Guy, you're faster. Try to snatch the bell when the chance opens," Ebisu suggested. Chen's speed was too overwhelming for any straightforward combined attack. "Okay," Guy said, not much of a tactician but ready. Genma agreed and shouted, "Clone technique!" Both Genma and Ebisu made 4 clones each. 10 figures rushed Chen in a woven formation, hoping to confuse his vision. But for a seasoned jonin like Chen, the clones were obvious. He singled out Genma's real body, punched him to the ground, then kicked Ebisu into a tree. Might Guy approached from a different angle, gathering chakra in his legs and preparing to use Soru to burst forward and grab the bell. Chen merely observed. "Your plan is too obvious," he said, flickering toward Genma's real body and knocking him down, then dealing with Ebisu before Guy could move. "You actually got faster." "Impressive," Chen remarked, catching Guy's outstretched arm as Guy reached for the bell. There was a flicker of appreciation in his eyes. Guy's raw physicality was remarkable. "Too bad your teammates are so far behind. If they'd been more of a problem, you might have succeeded." Chen's comment stung Genma. If only Obito had been this strong, maybe he could have helped Guy. The gulf in skill made Genma feel like dead weight. "What now? Basic Academy ninjutsu won't cut it against someone of this level," Ebisu fretted. "What should we do? What if I were stronger?" Guy's expression lit up. He had trained to protect his comrades, not to be rescued by them. Today, he was determined to earn Genma and Ebisu their place. "How much stronger?" Chen asked, curious. 8 gates, gate of healing, open," Guy announced, pushing open the second gate. His chakra swelled, and with the second gate combined with total concentration, rock breathing, his body reached its current peak. "Show me your limit," Chen said, folding his hands behind his back. Guy retreated a little, then built up speed until he exploded forward. Noon leopard, he poured everything into his leg, chakra, speed, and the multi-burst Soru pushes until he was a blur. The kick struck like a hunting leopard, a focused, devastating strike. Dust rose, leaves trembled, and even Chen narrowed his eyes. "Guy can do moves like that?" Genma gaped. He realized Guy hadn't shown anything like this during the academy exams. No wonder he'd placed first without unleashing his full power. Ebisu, watching the raw confidence on Guy's face, wondered at the source of such strength. Guy had no famed clan or powerful father, just stable, relentless training. Chen's face turned serious. He condensed chakra in his own leg and answered with an equally fast whirlwind kick. The collision detonated with a boom that shook the ground and drove Genma and Ebisu back a few steps. When the dust settled, Guy had been thrown 5 meters. Chen barely moved. "Your power and speed are excellent, but still not enough," Chen said with a hint of admiration. He had decided Guy was worth training. Sending them flying didn't matter. Rules were his to judge, and if he declared them to have passed, that was that. Ebisu suddenly remembered the cover of the book that had been on the ground near where Chen had been sitting. Taking a gamble, he formed hand seals. Enemy confusion technique. 5 shamelessly scantily clad older sister clones popped into existence. "Teacher Chen, look here," Ebisu yelled. Chen, who'd been forming a plan in his head, glanced up reflexively, and immediately his gaze was riveted. A nosebleed burst forth. Seizing the distraction, Genma spat a senbon he'd been holding, knocking the bell from Chen's waist. Guy, still in the state of total concentration with the second gate open, lunged and caught the falling bell. It worked, Ebisu breathed, dumbfounded. The technique that had ruined his reputation, his pervy jutsu, had actually saved the day. "You were amazing, Sue. Who else could have done it? Our 4th grade's famous pervert." Genma laughed, clapping Ebisu on the back. "Hey, don't blame me. I didn't invent that jutsu. 2 genjutsu prodigies did," Ebisu protested, face darkening. Explaining only made things worse. He'd always avoided using it for that reason. "Guy, I can't believe you held back at the exams. If people knew," Genma moved to Guy, praising him. "Your speed made the difference. Without it, even Sue's jutsu might not have been enough." "Haha, I am a taijutsu beast," Guy answered, giving himself a thumbs up. He also credited Genma's senbon. Snatching the bell had been a team effort. Teacher Chen dabbed at his nosebleed with a tissue and sighed approvingly. The sight of the older sister clones had made an impression, certainly, but more than that, he was impressed by what he'd seen from Guy. "These kids are not to be underestimated," he muttered. "Ebisu, Shiranui Genma Might Guy," Chen announced to them. "You're an interesting trio. You've passed the test. From today, you are my students." Relief flooded Genma. Ebisu felt inward satisfaction. Being Chen's disciples was far better than training me under some ordinary sensei. Teacher Chen looked at Guy. "That tornado-like taijutsu you tried, was that your own creation?" "Yes, that's my advanced taijutsu, Leaf Dragon God," Chen said with pride when Guy asked. He eyed Guy thoughtfully. "Want to learn it? Maybe later. You're not ready yet. You'll have to grow stronger first." Hearing that, Guy felt another spark to drive his training forward. 269. Progress on life tasks appears member. Even though most of his students had graduated, Mu Yue's daily routine hadn't changed much. He'd only gone from teaching 5 students to teaching 1. Teaching 1 was certainly easier than teaching 5, so he had more time to refine his own skills. On the afternoon after his students were assigned to their new squads, he practiced the Great Waterfall technique for a while, then sat down to rest and opened the system's mentor-disciple interface to check their life mission progress. He checked it from time to time to keep track. The last time he'd looked, Might Guy had been the furthest along at 0.5%, while Shisui and Obito hadn't shown any movement yet. Mu Yue blinked when he saw Obito's progress jump to 3%. "Did it really increase that much at once?" he muttered. Then the reason clicked into place. Minato was Jiraiya's disciple. Of course, not anyone could become Hokage. The first Hokage had been chosen by all Konoha ninja, but after that, the post often stayed within certain lineages or connections. Hiruzen had trained under Tobirama, Minato was Hiruzen's grand disciple, Tsunade had been Hiruzen's student, and Kakashi had been Minato's. Identity alone wasn't enough, but it worked like a buff. If you had the Hokage lineage identity and the power to match, your chance of becoming Hokage shot up. Power without identity, or identity without power, wouldn't be enough. Mu Yue figured that if Minato eventually became Hokage, the bonus would only grow. Obito would then be both the previous Hokage's grand disciple and the current Hokage's disciple, essentially stacking the buffs. Aside from Obito's sudden surge, Shisui and Might Guy's progress remained stagnant. After dinner, Mu Yue went to Hiruzen Sarutobi's house. It had been a while since he'd asked about the Shuriken Shadow Clone technique, and now he wanted to ask Hiruzen about the Great Waterfall technique, both to cement his image as a ninjutsu prodigy and to prepare the groundwork for his next power-up. "Third Hokage-sama, do you have time? I've hit some snags with the Great Waterfall technique," Mu Yue said after greeting Hiruzen. "I happen to be free," Hiruzen replied, getting ready for his post-dinner walk. "But the Great Waterfall technique can't be practiced in the yard. Let's go to the small river nearby." He didn't want to flood his home again like last time. Asuma's coming too, Asuma piped up. Hiruzen frowned. Why are you coming? You don't even learn water release. I'm not coming to learn from you, Asuma shot back. What can you teach from doing it once and talking about it? I just want to see if Mu Yue-sensei has improved. That's because everything I say is the essence and the key points, Hiruzen protested. He'd taught countless ninjutsu, mastered all 7 chakra natures, and had trained the Sannin. He didn't understand why Asuma thought Mu Yue was a better teacher. But Asuma only cared about results. Mu Yue stepped in to defuse the sparring. Let Asuma come. I've made some breakthroughs in wind-release chakra nature transformation. I can teach him a little. That won Hiruzen over. Mu Yue had real ability, and more teaching couldn't hurt. All right, if you learn from Mu Yue and improve, you should study hard. The chuunin exams aren't far off. If you become strong enough, your teacher might recommend you, Hiruzen cautioned Asuma. As if you need to tell me, Asuma grumbled, though the family banter still felt warm beneath the edge. At the riverbank, Hiruzen had Mu Yue demonstrate the great waterfall technique, then addressed the problems Mu Yue had encountered, offering explanations and demonstrations. Asuma watched quietly, then cheered when Mu Yue showed clear improvement. Mu Yue-sensei, you still say you aren't a genius? You learned so fast, even from the old man. Asuma exclaimed, half surprised, half excited at the thought of learning wind release. Mu Yue smiled and credited Hiruzen. Thanks to Third Hokage-sama's guidance. Hiruzen stroked his beard and waved the praise away. It's mainly your ta, lent for ninjutsu. My guidance is just a pointer. He had a brief, private thought about taking Mu Yue as a disciple. His own famous students hadn't inherited his full repertoire of ninjutsu. Mu Yue, who had learned 2 A-rank techniques so fast, might. But the whole world was at war, and his time was scarce. Taking a disciple he couldn't properly teach would be meaningless. He shelved the idea for now. After giving his advice, Hiruzen left and told Asuma to go home when they were done. I'm a ninja now, not a child, Asuma complained as the old man walked off. You're 10 years old, Mu Yue said, smiling and patting him on the head. Third Hokage worries because he's your father. Asuma, hurry up and teach me nature transformation, he demanded, eager. Mu Yue nodded and began to teach Asuma wind-release chakra nature transformation. With the Ninja Academy starting in about 10 days, Mu Yue would set aside time to help Asuma get stronger. Meanwhile, on the way to the Hokage building, Obito, now a senior, gave Rin Nohara some mission tips. They'd done well in yesterday's training, and Minato Namikaze had decided to take them on a mission. How should I put this? Today you probably won't see any real combat, Minato warned to soften expectations. Newly graduated genin usually only take D-rank missions. Obito, you've interned, so you know what D-rank missions are. I know, odd jobs, picking up trash, farm work, Obito said. He'd done plenty of D-rank work. But we were allowed to do C-rank missions during our internship, Obito protested. We even completed an S-rank mission. Surely we shouldn't have to go back to D-rank now. Minato kept quiet. The rules were rigid. Privileges granted by Hiruzen to Mu Yue's squad didn't automatically transfer to the new Minato squad. Obito brightened when he saw an old acquaintance, Sawada Kazuya, among the registration officials and greeted him. Uncle Sawada, good morning. Good morning. Congratulations on becoming full-fledged ninja, Sawada replied, looking at Obito's forehead protector. Can you pick a good C-rank mission for our squad? Obito asked hopefully. No, Sawada said flatly. Oh, then we'll pick ourselves. Your squad can only take D-rank missions, not C-rank, Sawada explained, handing over a D-rank mission scroll. Obito stared. He hadn't expected to start at the bottom again. Kakashi, watching, showed a face that said, I told you so. Even chuunin sometimes had to do odd jobs when joining a new team. Uncle Sawada, didn't the third Hokage grant us C-rank privileges before? We finished an S-rank mission. Isn't it unfair to be limited to D-rank now? Obito protested. That was during your internship with Mu Yue's squad. Now your team is different, so you follow the normal rules. Even if you can handle C-rank, your teammates have to be able to as well, Sawada reminded him. Obito glanced at Rin using her monstrous strength and thought C-rank should be fine. Minato's expectations were met. Then Obito had an idea. When they first interned, they'd only been allowed D-rank missions, and only after finishing them had Hiruzen let them try C-rank. Maybe the same path would work again. Minato-sensei, let us take 10 of these. We'll finish them fast and get Rin used to missions, Obito proposed. All right, we'll take all the missions on this scroll, Minato agreed. No problem, Sawada said. He trusted Obito and Kakashi's efficiency. 10 D-rank missions wouldn't take long. Outside the Hokage building, Obito turned to Kakashi. Let's use Shadow Clone together to speed things up. Why use Shadow Clone? You'll be exhausted, Kakashi replied. He'd been surprised by Obito's sudden enthusiasm. Have you forgotten? Last time we only got to do C-rank after finishing all the D-rank missions. Maybe it'll work again, Obito said. No guarantee, Kakashi answered coolly, but Obito's challenge spurred him. Then let's see who finishes more D-rank missions. You, a Chuunin, aren't going to beat me. A chuunin, are you? Kakashi was annoyed and accepted. The two worked at a furious pace, motivating Rin to pick up her speed. Using clones to multiply their workforce, they finished 30 D-rank missions in a single day. After dispelling their clones, Obito was exhausted but determined to keep up the pace until every D-rank mission was done. While Obito and company ground through missions, Mu Yue received rewards from the system without having to lead the team himself. System. Disciple Kakashi, Uchiha Obito worked hard to complete the entrusted mission, gaining a growth reward, chakra +5. System. Disciple Kakashi, Uchiha Obito worked hard to complete the entrusted mission, gaining a growth reward, chakra +4. Because their team was strong, the rewards per mission were small, sometimes only 3 points combined, but they did the missions often enough that the total added up to more than a day's worth of class training. Mu Yue couldn't help feeling a little guilty. He was sitting at home while his disciples' hard work translated into chakra increases for him. It felt like getting something for nothing. 270. Feasibility of returning home to Watergate afternoon at the Hokage building. Uncle Sawada, give us 10 more D-rank missions, Obito announced dramatically as he burst into the mission hall. He was determined to qualify for C-rank missions, and to do that, he planned to grind out 30 D-rank jobs today. There aren't any D-rank missions left for you to take right now, Sawada Kazuya said, shaking his head. In truth, there were still some, but they couldn't let Obito's team hoard them. Other Chuunin needed work too, and at their pace a few teams would soon be out of jobs. Yay, we're finally done. Obito beamed. Shadow Clone made the work efficient, but it was exhausting. So, can we take C-rank missions now? No. Sawada answered flatly. He wasn't the Hokage and had no power to change the rule. Obito opened his mouth to argue, then noticed the third Hokage nearby, talking with another shinobi, and went over. When Hiruzen Sarutobi finished assigning the other mission, he saw Obito approaching and chuckled. How does it feel to be a proper ninja? Not so great, Obito complained. It's worse than being an intern. We're still stuck on D-rank. He turned to Hiruzen. Uncle Hokage, you know our strength. Kakashi is a chuunin. Rin isn't weak either. Our squad can handle C-rank missions, no problem. Hiruzen watched him thoughtfully. Rules existed for a reason. New Chuunin were restricted to protect them, but he trusted Minato's judgment. You and Kakashi certainly have the strength to handle C-rank missions, he said. Then he glanced at Minato. Minato, do you think their current strength is sufficient? Minato Namikaze answered seriously. I think there's no problem. They had already proven themselves during the Bell test. Minato felt they could even manage B-rank under the right conditions. From now on, when Minato's squad takes missions, they won't have to follow the new Chuunin restrictions, Hiruzen told the registration desk. Seeing Minato's approval, he made it official. Obito raced to Rin and grabbed her in triumph. Rin, I told you, doing all those D-rank missions paid off, he crowed. Rin couldn't help but smile. Well, it's not just that, Kakashi interjected. The internship experience and Captain Minato are what really made the difference. Obito waved Kakashi's point away. You're just jealous of my intelligence, Kakashi. Why didn't you mention a way to take C ranks before? He asked smugly. Kakashi was speechless. He couldn't tell where Obito's confidence in that word came from. With the Hokage there and many ears listening, he let it drop to spare Obito's pride. Once they were registered, Minato and the team went to choose a mission. Obito peered at the list. Any missions that go through beautiful scenery? He asked eagerly. This is work, not a vacation. The registration ninja replied, bewildered. It was the first time he'd heard someone request good views for a job. Minato scanned the missions. "How about this escort to the Land of Hot Water?" he suggested. The Land of Hot Water lay northeast of the Land of Fire and had many natural hot springs. Minato thought the landscape would be pleasant enough. The registration ninja hesitated and then reminded Minato, "Jonin Minato, border reconnaissance reported Cloud Shinobi have been seen in the Land of Hot Water recently. Be careful." Normally an escort like this wouldn't encounter any shinobi. It was just accompanying a commoner to a nearby town. But with Konogakure and Kumogakure at odds, an accidental meeting could turn deadly. "Thank you. We'll be cautious," Minato said, smiling. He then led Kakashi, Rin, and Obito to find the client. "I'm Izumi Muneki," their client said with a courteous smile. "I'm ready to depart whenever you are." "Then let's leave," Minato replied. The client had no carriage, so the five of them set out on foot. Their formation was simple, Minato and Obito up front, Kakashi and Rin covering the flanks, and Izumi in the center. Obito's curiosity about Minato's flying thunder god surfaced as they walked. "Captain Minato, your space-time ninjutsu is incredible. If you placed a kunai at home and more kunai on the battlefield, you could teleport back to rest whenever you're tired, then pop back in and catch your opponent off guard. That would make you unstoppable, right?" Minato paused, amused by Obito's imagination. "It's a good idea, but flying thunder god isn't as convenient as it sounds," he said. "It has a distance limit. The farther the mark, the more chakra it costs. And enemies won't just sit still while I teleport. They can move elsewhere." Obito pressed on. "Then just put a bunch of kunai out and tie them together with short lines. Make the distance longer that way." Minato chuckled. "Obito, a ninja's chakra isn't infinite. Repeatedly teleporting back and forth would eat through chakra fast. Even if he rested at home, he'd have burned a lot on the way there. Leaving a mark on a powerful opponent solves the moving target problem, but it's hard to mark someone strong. If they're weak enough to mark, you probably don't need the trick in the first place." I guess so." Obito realized chakra would be the limiting factor. He thought about his own flame-breathing technique. He could release jutsu continuously, but his chakra wouldn't last forever either. That night, Minato found a secluded spot, set up a tent, and had the client rest. Shinobi could travel without sleeping, but commoners needed proper rest. Around the campfire, Obito continued dispensing mission advice to Rin. "You have to watch Kakashi," Obito said earnestly. "If Kakashi says nothing will go wrong, that's when you really need to be careful." Rin laughed. "Is that a joke?" "No, it's always like that on missions," Obito insisted. "Once is a coincidence, but how can it be coincidence 4 times in a row?" Kakashi, who couldn't hold it in, defended himself. "It's just coincidence." Obito cut him off and demanded, "Fine, then tell us, are we going to encounter Shinobi on this mission?" Kakashi hesitated. Normally not, but given the wartime reports and the registration ninja's warning, he couldn't be certain. After a moment, he chose to be optimistic. "Nothing will go wrong on this mission." Obito grinned like he'd won. "He really said it, Rin. This isn't a joke. We have to be careful." Rin smiled at the two of them bickering and said, "I'll be careful. Thanks for the reminder, Obito." They settled for the night, alert but confident. Despite the rumors of Cloud Shinobi in the region, the mission's route and destination, a southern city of the Land of Hot Water close to the Land of Fire, made an encounter unlikely. And after 4 previous missions had gone wrong, Kakashi believed the odds couldn't possibly line up for a 5th disaster in a row. Obito and his team hadn't met a single opponent since leaving the Land of Fire, but he didn't let his guard down. From experience, trouble tended to appear in foreign territory. Kakashi, though he thought an ambush unlikely, stayed cautious. After 4 recent close calls, he wasn't about to get complacent. Izumi, however, relaxed bit by bit. The trip had been so uneventful that he grew talkative. "If you ever visit the Land of Hot Water, try our natural hot springs. They're wonderful," Izumi said. "For sightseeing, Rose Street is lovely. Every house there has roses planted in front. When they bloom, the breeze carries petals all over the place. It's very romantic." "A whole street full of roses does sound romantic," Rin Nohara said, eyes bright as she pictured red petals drifting in the wind. Obito, who'd been watching Rin because he worried about her safety, noticed her expression and quietly memorized the attraction's name, planning to take her there if he ever had the chance. Everyone stop. Something's happening. Minato's voice cut through the calm, and he activated his sensory ability. He picked up many chakra signatures nearby, one of them incredibly strong, and quickly warned Kakashi and the others. There are several shinobi close by, but probably by coincidence. Let's hide, Minato said after a moment. The mission came first. They only had to escort the client. There was no need to pick a fight. If it were just him, Minato might have investigated to learn which village they were from, but he had 3 young students with him and didn't want unnecessary trouble. Obito didn't understand why they had to hide, but he obeyed and slipped up into a tree with Rin. Minato kept tracking the approaching chakra and soon realized something odd. The group that hadn't been on their path suddenly accelerated toward them. Oh no, the other side has a sensor too. Minato realized the reason. He could sense them, but the enemy had sensing ninja who could detect Minato's presence just as well. Kakashi, take this. Minato handed a flying thunder god kunai to Kakashi. Kakashi had performed best during the bell-grabbing training, and Minato trusted him most right now. The 3 of you protect the client. Don't act rashly. I'll handle the enemy. Minato's tone was serious. The chakra he could sense was too powerful to be a casual threat. Perfect. It's a Konoha shinobi. The newcomer who had arrived to the clearing nodded after seeing Minato's forehead protector. The 4th Raikage-Ai's face was unreadable. Iwagakure had been ineffective. He thought Konoha had the upper hand, even against places supposedly bolstered by Jinchuriki. The Kumagakure higher-ups had decided they needed to press harder against Konoha. Lord, be careful. That chakra is strong. It might be Minato Namikaze, what Iwagakure calls the yellow flash. He moves incredibly fast, Motomu reported. He handled sensing and kept files on many shinobi. Minato's name was among those he'd cataloged after clashes between Konoha and Iwagakure. Extremely fast? I'd like to see that for myself. The Raikage's expression didn't change. He had never thought anyone could outpace him. He considered himself second fastest in the world, after a hidden mist shinobi who once pretended to be from Sunagakure. Isn't that? Obito's face went pale when he saw 4th Raikage-Ai and the man beside him, Killer B. He recognized them instantly as the powerful pair Mu Yue had once mentioned, the ones who'd forced her and her comrades to cover their retreat. Obito. Kakashi met his gaze and signaled with his eyes. Obito, shut up. Mu Yue had warned them repeatedly, not to tell anyone they'd run into the Raikage's candidate during that mission. They were only to say they'd encountered a Kumogakure Jonin who was killed. It's actually Kumogakure's AB combo. Minato's frown deepened. These were not opponents to be taken lightly. The Raikage and Killer Bee had already made their reputations by crushing notable veterans of Sunagakure. Their fame had spread early. Rin, the only one who didn't the Raikage's reputation, still felt the shift in atmosphere and stared at the approaching figures with taut caution. I hear you're very fast, but I don't think you're faster than me, 4th Raikage-Ai said as he activated his lightning-release chakra mode. Blue lightning crackled over his body like armor. Minato threw 3 flying thunder god kunai, 2 embedded in the trunks of nearby trees, the 3rd shot toward the Kumogakure team. Killer Bee casually drew a short blade and knocked the flying kunai aside with a single sweep. What kind of aim is that? You're off by that much? One of the Kumogakure shinobi scoffed. Tool throwing was a basic skill. They took the miss as a sign. Yellow flash might be hype. I'm not here to prove who's faster. I suggest you leave. I don't want to waste chakra on a non-mission, Minato replied calmly, unconcerned by their reputation. He was confident in his own strength. His worry was for Obito and the others. If you want to leave, you can do it after I send you off. 4th Raikage-Ai didn't bother with words. He let loose his full power and charged. Floods of chakra vitalized his muscles and even sharpened his nerves. To onlookers, Ai's body seemed to vanish into a streak of blue light. Obito stumbled internally. This was the 5th consecutive disaster they'd stumbled into. He regretted letting Kakashi talk him into these patrols. If Mu Yue were here, Obito would have been calm. She could handle a fight with the Raikage candidate and manage a retreat. He didn't know exactly what Minato could do, only that Minato was strong. Kakashi felt speechless. In a few months, he'd been unlucky enough to meet more dangers than most would in a lifetime. Even against Ai's charge, Minato didn't panic. His reaction speed and sensing were formidable. As Ai lunged, Minato casually tossed another Flying Thunder God kunai, this time with hardly any force, a simple upward toss. Stand there and see if you can take my ninjutsu, I thought, certain his strike would split Minato in two. But the next instant, something he hadn't expected happened. Whoosh! Minato used Flying Thunder God to teleport to one of the large trees at the edge of the clearing. Ai only registered a flicker of movement. Minato had vanished from in front of him. Fourth Raikage Ai's face registered astonishment. How had Minato disappeared so suddenly? Then Minato reappeared above Ai, snatching up the thrown kunai. A surge of chakra reinforced his grip as he drove the kunai down toward Ai's shoulders. The attack was too sudden. Even with Ai's speed, he couldn't react in time. At that moment, Minato felt the slice of a lightning blade aimed at him. He abandoned the attack and used Flying Thunder God again to retreat back to the tree. He's using kunai for spatial movement, Killer Bee observed aloud. He'd already guessed when Minato had popped up on the tree, and Minato's pattern, 3 quick relocations all centered on kunai, confirmed it. B. Good call. Ai zipped back to his side and praised Killer Bee, while quickly committing the positions of the kunai in his mind. With his speed, he could close those distances instantly. Now he only had to force Minato to use Flying Thunder God again. As if answering him, Minato tossed 3 more kunai, increasing the number of points he could teleport to. Seeing Minato was no ordinary shinobi, Ai's subordinates decided not to risk engaging him directly and instead moved to confront the other Konoha team. Motomu led 3 Kumogakure nin toward Obito and his 3 companions. Earlier, Mu Yue had the 4 of them use transformation technique to alter their appearances, so Motomu didn't recognize Kakashi or Obito by sight. That didn't stop him from deciding to eliminate them. Disrupting Minato would throw Konoha's plans into chaos. It's probably 1 jonin and 3 chuunin. That's more than they can handle, Minato said quietly as he monitored the incoming chakra. He readied himself to find an opening and help. With the strength of Obito and his teammates, a true jonin was already beyond the 4 limit. If 3 chuunin joined the fray, Obito and the others would certainly be overwhelmed. Minato braced, scanning for any chance to tip the balance before the smaller battle turned into disaster. 72. Raikage's second loss. Rin, take the client and fall back. Kakashi and I will hold them, Obito said quickly as the Cloud Shinobi charged. Rin Nohara was the weakest of the group, so Obito instinctively assigned her the safer role. Rin glanced at Kakashi. He nodded. They couldn't focus only on fighting and ignore the client. Having Rin babysit the client while providing support was the best option. With that decided, Rin led the frightened client away and began gathering chakra, ready to assist at a moment's notice. Fire release. Great fireball technique. Obito formed the hand signs, gathered chakra into his throat for a fire release transformation, and expelled a 3-meter great fireball at the approaching Cloud Shinobi. Despite its drawbacks, the great fireball was low-cost and powerful, an ideal probing attack when an enemy's true strength was unknown. Kakashi hurled a volley of shuriken to make it harder for them to dodge. The 4 Cloud Shinobi didn't meet the attack head-on. They spread out, used body flicker technique to avoid the fireball, drew their weapons to block Kakashi's shuriken, and continued forward. Kakashi felt the pressure. Their movement is good, he thought. He didn't have appraisal technique to read their chakra directly, but from how they reacted, he could tell these weren't genin. A team led by a Raikage candidate could be expected to include jonin-level fighters. The last time they'd run into a Raikage candidate, 2 Cloud Shinobi had pushed them to the brink. If Guy and Obito hadn't broken their limits, things might have gone even worse. Clutching his White Fang short sword, Kakashi considered their options. If his teammate were Might Guy, Guy would pin them while Obito unleashed firepower, then charge in. But with Rin, they didn't have that kind of brute force. Strength of 100 required first making contact. Kakashi decided to probe. Lightning breathing, total concentration. He inhaled deeply, boosting his physical capabilities. Chakra pooled in his lower body, underwent a nature transformation, and he surged toward Motomu, who appeared to be the leader. If Motomu wasn't a jonin, The others likely weren't either. Clang! Kakashi's short sword met Motomu's blade with a metallic ring. Your speed is decent, but it's still not enough against my perception, Motomu said, pushing Kakashi back. A surge of chakra transformed his sword into a lightning blade, and he thrust fiercely. Motomu was a sensory ninja, and genuinely Jonin-level strong, not exceptional among Jonin, but dangerous. A burning kunai streaked in and forced Motomu to abandon his attack and dodge. Kakashi used lightning-breathing speed to tumble back to Obito. That lead cloud shinobi is a Jonin, he said seriously. The other three might be chuunin, or there could be more Jonin. Obito's head throbbed. He'd felt Akumogakure Jonin's power before. Even with his two Tomoe Sharingan and Metkai's second gate, never mind now, it had been brutal. One Jonin they could take on together, but 3 additional chuunin were too many. They couldn't expect Rin to handle those 3. Fire release, great fireball technique. Obito staved them off and retreated. We're outmatched, Kakashi muttered, thinking fast. He scanned his tool pouch, eyes flicking to the Flying Thunder God kunai and beyond it to Minato, who was currently engaged with a Raikage candidate. Relying on others wasn't ideal, but Minato was the only one who could turn this around quickly. Minato met Kakashi's gaze. He'd been waiting for a moment. Kakashi decided to trust him. He pulled a kunai from his pouch and lobbed it toward Motomu. Because it appeared to be an ordinary thrown kunai, Motomu barely registered it and dodged, failing to notice the Flying Thunder God's seal carved into it. Minato teleported behind Motomu with the Flying Thunder God technique, stabbed him with the marked kunai, grabbed him to place a Flying Thunder God mark, and hurled him toward 4th Raikage A. A hadn't expected another Flying Thunder God kunai. He eyed Minato wary, then caught Motomu, pulled out the kunai, and tossed it aside. He had the Cloud Shinobi tend to Motomu's wounds. For A, 2 men in his unit were especially precious, Killer B, a brother in all but blood, and Motomu, a rare sensory talent loyal to him. Losing Motomu would not just be regretful, it would make A furious. Don't move. Stay by B's side and keep quiet, A said gravely. Understood, Motomu replied, accepting A's command. With Motomu neutralized, Minato turned his full attention to I to stop him from using his extreme speed to strike Obito and the others. Seeing Minato take out a Jonin, Kakashi relaxed. He seized his short sword and surged at the nearest Cloud Shinobi. Flame breathing, total concentration. Obito activated his 2 Tomoe Sharingan and entered flame breathing, total concentration, pushing his strength to the limit. He wielded a kunai and single-handedly held off 2 Cloud Shinobi. Sharingan! The 2 recognized Obito's Uchiha eyes and switched from trying to flank Rin to combining on him. Lucky that Mu Yue had trained them in evasion, the Sharingan's observation and his footwork made it hard for their combined taijutsu and ninjutsu to even graze his clothes. Still, 2-on-1 meant Obito could only maintain the upper hand, not finish them quickly. Obito wasn't in a rush. Kakashi was still occupied with his own opponent. Once Kakashi finished and came to help, 2 more moves would topple them. Before Kakashi could wrap up, Rin saw the situation stabilize and ran back toward Obito. Both Obito and the Cloud Shinobi noticed her. This Uchiha's hard to deal with. Hold him off. I'll grab his companion and threaten her, one Cloud Shinobi said, deciding to act. He assumed Rin was weak, otherwise she would have used ninjutsu earlier instead of hanging back. Without waiting, he charged at Rin. Obito watched. Sure, the attacker had underestimated her and kept his focus on the remaining foe. The Cloud Shinobi, who'd charged at Rin, threw a punch aimed at knocking her out. Strength of 100 technique. Rin poured chakra into her arm and drove her slender fist to meet the blow, using half her chakra on the strike. The Cloud Shinobi sneered. How could such a fragile-looking girl compare to a long-trained taijutsu fighter? Then his face met reality. Bang! The Cloud Shinobi flew backward at extreme speed, smashed into a tree, and broke it. The teammate fighting Obito stared in disbelief. The man who'd been sent flying was even more stunned. Pain and blood in his palm proved the truth. He could hardly move his fingers. It felt as if every bone in his hand were shattered. Seizing the chance, Obito rocked his opponent with a leaf whirlwind kick and sent him flying. The Cloud Shinobi fighting Kakashi already had deep, gaping wounds and was in terrible shape. Meanwhile, I kept pressuring Minato. Minato used Flying Thunder God again. A scanned the area, having memorized the points he could use to strike with his extreme speed. But this time, Minato appeared beside Killer B, pointing a kunai at B's head. "There shouldn't be a kunai marked with that seal there," A said, his face darkening. Could he mark people directly? He remembered Motomu being pierced by Minato earlier. Only Motomu and Minato had had that contact. Killer B's reactions were lightning quick. He pointed his sword behind him without turning, ready to counter. "If you want a mutual kill, come at me. I'm not afraid," B said calmly. He'd seen the cruelty of war and believed his older brother would avenge him. An injured Minato wasn't B's worst fear. Minato praised him. "Though we're opponents, I admire you. Your reactions and decisiveness are worthy of a true shinobi killer." From exploiting Flying Thunder God openings to responding at the extreme, Minato thought B had real potential. "How about we all stop and step back? We have no conflicting missions here," Minato suggested. He didn't intend to kill B. Doing so would enrage A, and A's strength could overwhelm them. Not killing Motomu earlier, but injuring Hai, M and tossing him to A had been partly tactical and partly to avoid total diplomatic collapse. Minato had faith in B's future, and in Obito and Kakashi too. Their strengths might meet again someday. A considered it, then called a halt. The three Cloud Shinobi retreated to tend to their injured. B had been willing to trade his life to take out Minato, but I wouldn't have him die in vain. Minato's words acted like a pause button. Both sides stopped, and Obito and the others gathered to protect the client. "Minato Namikaze, I'll remember you. You did well," I said deeply. Before meeting Minato, I had only ever suffered one true setback in his life, against a hidden mist ninja who used a lightning transformation. This was his second loss to another ninja. "I won't forget you either," Minato replied. He had a feeling this wouldn't be their last encounter. With Kumo and Konoha in a tense state, they might meet again during a larger conflict. Finally, both parties separated. A led his subordinates away to find a place to heal. Minato and his team continued the escort mission. Because of the encounter, once the mission was finished, Minato promptly returned Obito and the others to the Land of Fire to avoid running into such dangerous opponents again. For the next 4 days, you can all take it easy. No training, no missions. Back in Konoha, Minato told the three of them their schedule. He felt the mission had been too dangerous for Obito and the others. They had only just become official shinobi and already faced such powerful enemies. If they'd been more experienced, he might have given them a full week to recover, but 4 days would have to do. Obito scratched his head. 4 straight days off felt odd. After a mission, he usually rested the day he returned and got back to training the next day, maybe adding 1 or 2 more days if he was tired. He had basically never taken 4 consecutive days off. Kakashi shrugged. "It's reasonable, given who we fought." In other teams, he'd seen longer breaks after a C rank or higher mission. He also thought that even without extra holidays, if every instructor were like Mu Yue, the students would manage. The kind of teacher who pushed a steady pace but didn't force training. Students often trained on their own during holidays. In any case, don't worry about the mission. I'll file the report right away. Minato smiled softly. He had to inform Hiruzen Sarutobi about the appearance of the new AB combo in the Land of Hot Water. It was a bad sign. Kumogakure might gather forces from that region to threaten the Land of Fire's border. Then, "Minato-sensei, goodbye." Obito waved, grinning. "Goodbye, Minato-sensei," Kakashi echoed. "Minato-sensei, make sure you get some rest too, okay?" Rin asked with a caring smile. They'd used to call Minato senior or captain, but after this mission, they'd seen his concern and started calling him sensei. "I will." Minato waved and headed for the Hokage building. 4 days off. I don't even know what to do with myself. Obito turned to Rin. "Rin, what are you planning?" "Today and tomorrow I'll probably rest and study some medical ninjutsu references. The last 2 days I might go ask teacher Mu Yue some questions about training. Ninja Academy starts again soon, so he might be busier later." Rin thought for a moment before answering. Obito's eyes lit up. Rin's plan made perfect sense, except he wasn't going to see Mu Yue those last 2 days. He planned to go to the South Border Forest tomorrow to train. He'd met the Raikage candidate before, and Minato had protected them well. He didn't feel drained physically or mentally. If I train with teacher Mu Yue all 4 days, there's no way Kakashi can catch up to me, Obito thought. He already knew Kakashi outclassed him in theory and didn't want to fall behind in strength too. Don't tell me you're going to spend 4 days sleeping at home, Rin teased. Sleeping for 4 days is too much, but I'll definitely train. Obito kept his exact plan vague. And you, Kakashi? Obito asked. Train. Kakashi's answer was short and sure. He wanted to get stronger, stronger than Obito, Metkai, Shisui. He wanted to beat them in real combat. Rin's reminder about Mu Yue's availability came at the perfect time. 4 days with Mu Yue would be ideal. Seeing Kakashi so determined, Obito changed his mind about resting. He'd go home first, then head to the south border forest to train. If Kakashi trained a day while he rested a day, the gap would close. At the intersection, the three split up and went their separate ways. Now that Teacher Chen had become Might Guy's instructor, he finally understood how Guy had developed such a powerful body. With his other students, Teacher Chen often scolded them for not training enough and urged them to work harder. But when he watched Might Guy's regimen, he had to tell Guy not to overdo it. Too much could harm him. By Teacher Chen's strict standards, Guy's training already far exceeded what he considered sensible. Haha, Teacher Chen, don't worry, I always train like this. Teacher Mu Yue adjusted it for me, so it won't be a problem, Might Guy said, laughing loudly. Teacher Mu Yue? Who is he? Training like this might be okay while you're young, but it could cause issues later. Teacher Chen said it seriously. Worried Guy might be following someone who didn't know what they were doing. His full name is Hayate Mugetsu. In my view, he's a Taijutsu fighter no worse than you. Might Guy puffed up with pride. Ebisu had told him Teacher Chen was the best in Konoha at Taijutsu, but Guy felt that if Mugetsu combined the 8 gates with breathing technique marksmanship, Teacher Chen might not be able to beat him. Out of respect for Mugetsu's request, Guy hadn't exaggerated. He'd only said he felt Mugetsu might be on par with Teacher Chen. Hayate Mugetsu. That name sounds familiar. Is he the one from the Leaf newspaper a while back? Teacher Chen, who read the paper, had a faint recollection of the name. Yes. Teacher Mu Yue led us on a food transport mission and an accident happened. We arrived on the scene just as Iwagakure launched a large-scale surprise attack, and Teacher Mu Yue led us to help defend the battlefield. Might Guy nodded. That convinced Teacher Chen Mugetsu wasn't a fraud. Someone who'd fought against Jinchuriki and helped in battle wouldn't be a charlatan. All right, ask him to meet me sometime. I'd like to talk. Curious about Mugetsu's taijutsu, Teacher Chen decided it was worth finding him. I'll go ask Teacher Mu Yue after I finish training, Guy agreed. Teacher Chen reminded him again to rest before his next session. Guy walked to a large tree where Shiranui Genma and Ebisu were cooling off in the shade. What did Teacher Chen say? He looked really serious. Shiranui Genma asked in a low voice. Ebisu glanced at Guy. He was eager to know too. Nothing much. He was worried I'd overwork myself and told me to cut back and rest more. Guy answered honestly. Shiranui Genma's mouth twitched at the world's unfairness. Not long ago, he'd been scolded for not training hard enough. To drive the point home, Teacher Chen had demonstrated by kicking a boulder to pieces. But he's right, Guy, your training is extreme. Just hearing about it is exhausting. Genma no longer wondered why Guy's taijutsu was so strong. He'd seen Guy push himself through insane exercises. For Teacher Chen's students, taijutsu was indispensable, but Guy's routine bordered on self-abuse. Genma could already imagine collapsing under that workload. I'm fine. I've always trained like this. If I can't be a genius by birth, I'll become a hard-working genius. Guy beamed and gave a thumbs up. A hard-working genius, Ebisu mused. It fit Guy perfectly. If effort counted as talent, Guy would top the list. Ebisu had wondered how Guy, not from a ninja clan and without a powerful ninja parent, got so strong. After training with him, the answer was clear. Relentless work. If I'd trained this hard at the academy, could I have beaten Uchiha Obito? Ebisu wondered privately. He'd never know. By now they were already Jinin, but he'd found a new way forward. Sheer persistence could bring success. Guy will be the strongest among our generation, no doubt, Shiranui Genma said, patting him on the shoulder. After seeing the powerful taijutsu Guy had hidden during the exams, Genma believed Guy was ahead of Obito. You worry about yourself. You've rested long enough. Aren't you going to train? Teacher Chen appeared silently behind Genma and said, "How did he get here without making a sound?" Genma muttered and promptly got up to train. Abisu too got up and began to cultivate discreetly. What had happened in the past couldn't be changed, but he could start working harder now. 274. A small parting is more conducive to exploding gold coins. "Grandma, I'm home," Obito called as he stepped into the yard. "Welcome back," his grandmother replied, coming to the door with a warm smile. "You must be hungry. I'll make you something." It was only noon, and she assumed he hadn't eaten. Obito chuckled and nodded, then settled into the living room. The moment he sat, the tension in his body loosened, and a light drowsiness crept in. He scratched his head in puzzlement. Hadn't he felt fine just a moment ago? Still, the chair was comfortable, and the house quiet, perfect for resting. While she moved around the kitchen, his grandmother said, "Uchiha Yashiro came by yesterday and left a lot of things. He said if you finish your mission and have time, you should attend the clan's Young Ninja Exchange meeting." "A Young Ninja Exchange meeting?" Obito frowned, not quite understanding. "Is it just for talking?" "Sort of," she replied. "There'll be sparring, too, and prizes for the winners. Your father used to take part." Obito looked toward the kitchen. His grandmother rarely spoke of his father. "What did father get as a prize?" She hesitated, searching her memory. "I don't remember the exact prize, but your father was always very excited afterward, telling me about how strong the seniors were and how hard he had to fight to win." She paused, a little rueful. Time had taken a lot from her. Names and small details faded now. "It's in 2 days, Obito. If you don't want to go, you don't have to. They won't know when you finish your mission anyway," she added, more gently than she meant. Obito snorted. He'd never been one for clan socializing, but rewards were rewards. "Why wouldn't I go if there's a prize? No registration fee, right?" She set the dishes on the table with a laugh. "Eat up, you'll need your strength for training." He dug in. When his grandmother brought up Rin later, Obito's face went red and he choked on a mouthful. She immediately patted his back until he recovered. "What feelings?" "Grandma, we're only 9, he said, cheeks burning. She only smiled knowingly. He hurried to divert the subject. "Eat, Grandma, while it's hot." After lunch, he told her about some of what he'd heard on the Land of Hot Water mission, then headed out to the south border forest to train. Just as he arrived, he ran into someone he hadn't expected, Kakashi. "Not sleeping at home?" Kakashi asked coolly. "What's sleeping? It's broad daylight. I'm here to train with Minato-sensei," Obito replied. He was relieved he hadn't lazed away the day, otherwise he wouldn't have known that Kakashi had been working hard while he was gone. They exchanged looks and walked together into the forest. Mu Yue was already there, developing his water breathing, while Shisui practiced keeping constant state. Mu Yue glanced up. "Why are you two here now? Didn't Minato take you out on a mission today?" He wasn't truly surprised. He'd seen the mission reward and could tell they'd had a rough time. Disciple Kakashi and Uchiha Obito worked hard on the mission and earned a growth reward of 700 chakra. With just 2 disciples and no team bonus, 700 was a lot. Mu Yue suspected something had gone wrong on the mission. Obito and Kakashi seemed cursed with bad luck lately. "We just returned. Minato-sensei gave us 4 days off," Obito said. He couldn't help but recount the mission's dangers. "It was really risky. Kakashi's mouth is like a jinx. Every time he says nothing unexpected will happen, something unexpected happens." "It was a coincidence," Kakashi muttered. "Didn't you hear the registration ninja's warning? Kumo ninja were spotted in the Land of Hot Water, and we happened to run into them." "All I know is that's 5 disasters in a row now," Obito shot back. The number left Kakashi silent. 5 mishaps, including run-ins with a Raikage candidate, did seem suspicious. Obito went on. "Mu Yue-sensei, you'll never guess who we ran into this time. It's a good thing Minato's Flying Thunder God is strong. Otherwise, we might not have made it back." Mu Yue's gaze sharpened. Kumogakure again, likely a strong representative. 4th Raikage Eye or Killer Bee came to mind. The 3rd Raikage only showed up at major battlefields. "Maybe I'm lucky," Mu Yue said lightly, but his mind was already thinking. "All right, chat after training. Let's get to it," he said. Obito and company had shown up to train. There was no point dilly-dallying. "Kakashi, focus on constant state for your breathing technique. Keep your stamina up and sustain total concentration, Mu Yue instructed. Obito, learn a new fire release with me first. After you learn it, you can begin breathing training. Kakashi's priority was to fix his reaction problem. Mastering lightning breathing in the constant state was crucial. Reaction drills could only do so much. Without resolving his reaction limit, Kakashi couldn't safely unleash his full speed. For Obito, Mu Yue thought a powerful, wide-range fire release would suit him best. To avoid setting the forest ablaze, Mu Yue led him to the riverbank. What fire release are you going to teach me? Is it that Sea of Fire one? Obito asked eagerly, remembering Mu Yue's display on a past C-rank mission. No, but it's comparable in power, Mu Yue said. He planned to teach Obito fire release, Fire Dragon Flame Bullet, a technique from a ninjutsu scroll Danzo had given him. He explained the principles, the key points, then demonstrated. Fire release, Fire Dragon Flame Bullet, he called, forming the hand seals. Mu Yue condensed chakra and expelled a ferocious torrent of flame. Unlike an ordinary fireball, the Fire Dragon Flame Bullet attacked from multiple angles at once. That power made it deadly and difficult to control. Used badly, it would burn the user long before it reached the enemy. Under Mu Yue's control, the searing flames split into 3 streams and drove toward the river. Water steamed off in huge clouds as the surface boiled and churned. The river became violently distorted for an instant, and a white mist rose. This jutsu is powerful, but it eats chakra. Don't throw it around like the great fireball, Mu Yue warned. Yes, I remember, Obito said, eyes shining at the display. He nodded so fast he looked like a pecking chick. Mu Yue then carefully broke the technique down, demonstrating each stage. He tailored his teaching to each student. Shisui would need less explanation, able to infer much on his own, but Obito benefited from the full walkthrough. Perhaps because of their reunion and Obito's obvious gratitude, Mu Yue felt a stirring of reward. The teaching triggered something. He found himself gaining a new jutsu, water release, water prison technique, now at proficient level. It was a useful skill for trapping or defending, and Mu Yue appreciated its value. When training wound down, Mu Yue invited all 3 disciples to his home for dinner. Yes, I get to eat Mu Yue-sensei's cooking again, Obito said, delighted. Shisui and Kakashi agreed at once. That evening, as Mu Yue cooked, Minato and Metkai also arrived at his house. 275, taking stock of Konoha's famous strong men. Minato was the first to arrive. Whenever he had time, he would swing by to help Mu Yue with things around the house. He wasn't just there for free meals. He paused for a moment when he saw Kakashi and Obito in the living room, then smiled and greeted them. Minato-sensei. Neither Obito nor Kakashi were surprised to see him. Although this wasn't either of their homes, they always seemed to run into one another here. After a brief greeting to his former students, Minato headed into the kitchen to lend a hand. A few minutes later, Metkai burst in. He brightened at the sight of Kakashi and the others and called out with his usual exuberance. My rival! Though we aren't on the same team anymore, our bond is only stronger for it. How about a pleasant taijutsu spar? No, it's almost time to eat, Kakashi said flatly. Such a pity, Guy said, clearly disappointed. He'd felt his taijutsu growing stronger lately and had wanted to test himself against Kakashi. Guy, who are your teammates after the assignments? Obito asked, curious. Genma and Ebisu, Guy said, glancing toward Mu Yue in the kitchen before taking a seat. Since he was already there, he planned to ask Mu Yue if Teacher Chen could meet him after dinner. Oh, them? Not bad. Strong for their grade and good people, Obito said after a moment's thought. They're reliable allies. Guy agreed, giving a thumbs up and slapping an imaginary high five in the air. If Ebisu hadn't used his enemy confusion technique at the critical moment to fog Teacher Chen's mind, and if Genma hadn't spat out Senbon at the right moment, he probably wouldn't have gotten that bell during the test. After catching up with Guy for a while, Obito suddenly remembered the Uchiha exchange meeting his grandmother had mentioned, and turned to Shisui. Shisui, did you get an invitation to that young ninja exchange? Shisui nodded. Yes. Young ninja exchange? What's that? Why haven't I heard of it? Isn't Shisui still in the academy? Kakashi asked, puzzled. The idea of young and ninja made it hard for him to picture Shisui. It's an Uchiha clan event. Normally you'd only be invited after becoming a ninja, but the clan head wants more interaction among clan members, so he sent me an invitation, Shisui explained. When he heard it was an Uchiha event, Kakashi immediately lost interest. Those clan things were not for outsiders. I heard there are rewards at the exchange. Shisui, do you know what they give out? Obito asked. If the prizes were mediocre, he wouldn't go. He didn't want to waste training time. Shisui recounted what Fugaku had told him. If you do well, there's a chance to learn an advanced fire release. There are also ninja tools, secret medicines, and other items. Advanced fire release. Obito's ears perked up. He had just learned a powerful fire release from Mu Yue, but you could never have too many techniques. If it was something Mu Yue didn't know, they could practice together, another way to repay his teacher. Then, Shisui, are you going? We can go together. I was invited too. For advanced fire release, Obito decided it was worth checking out. All right, we'll go together, Shisui agreed. He had intended to attend after Fugaku invited him, but his reasons weren't the same as Obito's. Shisui wanted to see what the younger Uchiha generation was like. From listening to Mu Yue's history lessons about Konoha, he knew the clan's fate had been shaped by many of its elders. Betrayal soon after the village's founding, later disturbances that led to the creation of the Valley of the End with the first Hokage, and worse incidents during Tobirama's time when hawkish factions nearly staged a coup to seize the Hokage. Shisui hoped to see whether the current youth leaned more toward doves or hawks. If the latter predominated, history might repeat itself. When the dishes were almost all served, Mu Yue called his students to the table. Minato picked up his boxed meal and bid everyone goodbye. Minato-sensei, why not just eat here? Aren't you off missions for the next few days? Obito asked, puzzled. Minato came over every day to help cook, but always took his food to go. Minato thought for a moment, trying to come up with a reasonable explanation. Splat! Mu Yue released a small pulse of chakra that tapped Obito sharply on the forehead and said, Life's not all missions and busyness. Minato's boxed meals can be eaten anytime. If you don't hurry, the good food will be gone. At Mu Yue's reminder, Obito realized Kakashi, Guy, and Shisui were already silently engrossed in their meals. Obito quickly activated his Sharingan to sharpen his perception and dug in, no longer worrying about Minato's eating habits. Minato smiled, shared a look with Mu Yue, and took the meal for Kushina. After dinner, the students helped Mu Yue clean up, and then they began their post-meal conversation. Guy and Mu Yue brought up Teacher Chen. Mu Yue-sensei, are you free soon? My instructor, Teacher Chen, wants to discuss training with you. Teacher Chen? That's fine. Tell him tomorrow. I'm free all week. He can pick a time, Mu Yue replied after a moment. In Mu Yue's previous life, he hadn't heard of Might Guy's instructor in the anime or manga, so he had checked the school records when teams were assigned. He hadn't expected Guy's instructor to be Teacher Chen, the developer of the Leaf Dragon God. He figured this was a butterfly effect result of their altered history. In the anime, it didn't seem like Guy had a typical teacher-student relationship with anyone. Guy's taijutsu genius had probably shaped the assignments. A taijutsu prodigy deserved a top-tier instructor. This will be a good chance to show some of my taijutsu, Mu Yue thought. When taijutsu specialists discussed training, a sparring match was reasonable. If Teacher Chen used the Leaf Dragon God, perhaps Mu Yue could later adapt it. Understood, Guy said. Teacher Chen really suits you as an instructor, Kakashi added, remembering what he knew of Chen, Konoha's strongest taijutsu specialist, proficient in many styles. Who is Teacher Chen? Is he really that strong? I've never heard the name, Obito asked, genuinely curious. He couldn't recall it. How many strong ninja do you know, besides Mu Yue-sensei and Minato-sensei? Kakashi asked lightly, a hint of teasing. Obito bristled at Kakashi's implication. He thought for a moment. Third Hokage, Toad Uncle, and... He trailed off, completely blanking after the second. Kakashi pinched his forehead. You could say you don't know any. The third Hokage's name is Hiruzen Sarutobi, and Jiraiya isn't called Toad. Tsunade! Obito suddenly remembered a name, the ninja Rin admired, and like Jiraiya she was one of the Sannin. Consider that you know one. And then? Kakashi pressed. Obito scratched his head, unable to think of anyone else. He gave up. So how many can you name? You can't reuse the ones I said. Danzo Shimura, assistant to the Fire Shadow, a disciple of the second Hokage, very powerful. Orochimaru, a disciple of the third Hokage and, like Jiraiya, one of the Sannin. Kakashi rattled off several notable Konoha jonin as if listing treasures. As expected of you, my rival, you know so much, Guy said, giving Kakashi a thumbs up. Realizing he had been outmaneuvered, Obito steered the conversation back. So how strong is this teacher Chen, exactly? I heard Ebisu say he's Konoha's strongest taijutsu specialist, Guy answered, but I think Mu Yue-sensei's taijutsu wouldn't be inferior. Mu Yue-sensei, can you beat Teacher Chen using only taijutsu? Obito asked bluntly. Teacher Chen's taijutsu is very strong, but I shouldn't lose, Mu Yue replied with a smile. Then you'll definitely win, Obito declared, translating Mu Yue's answer into certainty. Splat! Mu Yue tapped Obito on the head. Obito laughed, satisfied that his reading was fair. The others also felt Mu Yue had the ability to match Teacher Chen, especially Guy, who knew the terrifying power of forbidden techniques like the 8 gates and rock breathing, realized that if Mu Yue already showed such strength without opening everything up, his true potential must be astounding. 276. Fight for prizes. Work hard for advanced fire release. The past always looks prettier, doesn't it? I really miss Ninja Academy. Shiranui Genma sighed as he sat under a tree, drenched in sweat and catching his breath. When he was in school, he'd been eager to graduate, imagine, finally becoming a real ninja. But now that he'd graduated, he found himself nostalgic for those school days. There had been less training then, and the instructors weren't as strict as Teacher Chen. If he stayed up late, he could sleep through an unimportant theory class. He smiled to himself at how contradictory he'd always been, pining for vacation during term, then missing school a few days into the break, and longing for holidays again not long after school resumed. If I went back to the academy, I'd probably start missing being a ninja all over again, Genma muttered. I don't miss it at all. What's past is past, Ebisu said flatly. Ha ha, that's only because your true colors were exposed in 4th grade, Genma laughed at his friend. Ebisu's face darkened. He didn't appreciate being reduced to that, especially since it had nothing to do with his nature, just 2 rivals he'd run into. Seeing Ebisu about to snap, Genma chuckled and prepared to slip away. You two, be sensible while you rest. Recover your stamina quickly so you can train again sooner, Teacher Chen said, appearing behind them and pinching their shoulders. You came from the ninja school. If your taijutsu can reach half of Guy's level, then I'll be able to focus on teaching you ninjutsu. Genma inhaled sharply and nodded. Ebisu sat up obediently, ready to resume training as soon as his rest was over. Their brief respite had already made him feel stronger. Teacher Chen, we haven't done a single mission yet. Any plans for that? Genma asked. He wasn't eager for menial chores, but without missions, he couldn't qualify for higher-ranked tasks. He was a ninja now and needed to start earning his own money. Oh right, you still need missions. I completely forgot. Teacher Chen rubbed his chin like he just realized something. When he was young, he'd taken plenty of missions and had saved well. Now he only took assignments when the Hokage arranged them. With Metkai showing such promise, Chen had been focused on helping him train, and the idea of assigning missions had slipped his mind. Genma stared in disbelief. He'd considered a lot of possibilities, but that Teacher Chen had simply forgotten wasn't one of them. Seeing Genma's expression, Teacher Chen cleared his throat and amended his tone. That was a joke. How could I forget? I've had plans all along. I just wanted you to train first. Too many D-rank missions early on are pointless. Genma wasn't entirely convinced. The forgetful look had seemed more natural. Teacher Chen, meanwhile, produced a book with a cool older sister on the cover and began reading. Genma quietly looked away. When Metkai had rested, he confirmed the details with Teacher Chen. Then tomorrow, meet here at the training ground after 2 p.m., Teacher Chen decided. Metkai nodded, jotting it down. He planned to tell Mu Yue in the evening. He might also mooch another meal. Yesterday's fried rice had been too good to pass up. On the morning of the exchange, Obito and Shisui met at the agreed spot and headed to the Uchiha compound together. The event took place in a large courtyard. Conversations and small gatherings inside the house, sparring and challenges in the open space. When they arrived, many Uchiha wearing headbands were already inside. Shisui, who didn't yet have a headband, scanned the crowd. Everyone else looked quite young, teens. He spotted Uchiha Tekka, who was around their age, chatting with Uchiha Inaho, a senior now in the police force. Tekka noticed Shisui and smiled, then greeted him. "Who's that? He looks even younger than you. And no headband," Inaho asked. "That's Shisui," Tekka explained. "He's only a prospective second year at the academy, so of course he doesn't wear a headband yet." "And don't let his age fool you," Tekka continued. "He's stronger than me. You've been busy with missions and police work, Inaho, but he's the newest genius from our clan." Tekka's praise carried no envy, only genuine admiration. The gap between a genius and an ordinary shinobi was sharp. Training efficiency, natural aptitude. Shisui had it. Tekka, a capable but otherwise ordinary Uchiha, had long accepted that Shisui was on a different level. "Oh, then I'd like to meet him. Surpassing you after only completing first grade." Inaho's interest was piqued. He knew Tekka's level. If Tekka praised someone like that, the youngster had to be exceptional. Nearby, Obito was taking in the scene. "Who's that next to him? I don't recognize him either," Inaho asked. "That's Uchiha Obito. He graduated this year as well," Tekka said, his expression shifting. Inaho frowned, remembering the name. "Uchiha Obito. Wasn't there a Uchiha once called the clan's dead last with that name?" "Yes, his grades used to be terrible," Tekka admitted, "but he improved massively in fourth grade. With his current strength, he could probably go straight to chuunin if he took the exams now." Tekka thought back to the practical exam in the third semester, when Metkai and Obito had shown their strength, and was sure he'd be overwhelmed by either of them. "Then he's an excellent Uchiha too," Inaho said. "Strength matters most. Past failures didn't count if you got stronger." He walked over to meet them. "Hello, I'm Uchiha Inaho. Tekka's told me about you both. You're the Uchiha clan's talents," Inaho said as he approached. "Hello, Senior Inaho. I wouldn't call myself a genius. I'm just a bit ahead of my peers for now," Shisui replied modestly. "I'm Uchiha Obito," Obito answered, stopping his wandering gaze. Inaho smiled. "If someone your age can beat Tekka, you must be something special. The Uchiha don't do empty compliments. We speak with strength. Strong is strong." Tekka nodded. If Shisui wasn't a genius, it was hard to imagine who in the clan could be. Inaho's words drew attention. He was well known among the young Uchiha, graduated at 10, became a chuunin at 12, and now at 13, already in the police force. A few other young Uchiha edged closer, surprised to see Inaho praising someone. "If you have questions about training, ask me," Inaho offered. "If you want to practice combat, I can guide you during the sparring later. Don't worry about bothering me. Think of it as a warm-up before you challenge a senior." "Good," Uchiha Yashiro said with satisfaction as he walked up. "An exchange is exactly for guiding juniors and testing seniors." "Exactly," Uchiha Fugaku agreed, walking beside him. The young Uchiha greeted the two elders respectfully. Fugaku and Yashiro were there as organizers and judges. They would watch the battles and reward anyone who truly impressed them. "Shisui, do your best," Fugaku said, patting Shisui on the shoulder, then moved to the front to speak. Fugaku's announcement was brief, just a couple of sentences, and then he declared the exchange officially started. "This is a lot better than some ninja school teachers," Obito muttered, thinking of instructors who liked half-hour lectures. "Inaho, any questions for us?" he asked. Obito spoke up, blunt as always. "I heard there might be a reward for a high-level fire release. How do you get one?" Inaho laughed. "If you can defeat me in combat, General Fugaku will definitely reward you with a high-level fire release." Obito smirked. He'd set himself a clear target. Chapter 277, Surprised Uchiha. "Then I challenge you," Obito said, surprising Uchiha Inaho. He had only wanted a reward, but after hearing Inaho's words, his resolve hardened. "I accept your challenge." Uchiha Inaho looked at him with a pleased expression. He respected anyone bold enough to challenge a stronger opponent. "Just fight with everything you've got. Don't hold back," Inaho said. Although Uchiha Tekka had told him Obito had the strength to get through the chuunin exams, Inaho couldn't believe a 9-year-old could really hurt him. He'd passed the exams last year and trusted his own judgment more than Tekka's recent experience. "Tekka, be our referee," Inaho told Uchiha Tekka at his side. The Uchiha had no official referees. They usually picked a friend or fought without one. "No problem," Tekka nodded. After the match, he wanted Inaho to give him pointers. They moved to the open courtyard. A small pavilion nearby sheltered Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Yashiro, who had gone to drink tea after their discussion. Since it was still early, the courtyard was empty. Obito and Inaho would be the first match. I'll count down from 5, then the fight begins. 5, 4. Tekka said, taking a few steps back as Obito and Inaho assumed fighting stances. Fugaku and Yashiro, noticing the bout, watched with interest. This Uchiha Obito looks promising. He has talent and the courage to challenge, Yashiro said approvingly. He liked what he saw. Among Uchiha of Obito's age, only Shisui seemed more gifted. Inaho is good too, steady in his work with the police force, Fugaku added, setting down his teacup. 2, 1, go! Tekka finished and quickly retreated toward the house, settling to watch. He expected Inaho to win, but it would be a tough match. Tekka's shout drew others from the house. Someone's fighting already? Let's see who it is. A few curious Uchiha came out to watch. When they saw Obito, some exchanged puzzled looks. Who is that? He looks awfully young. No idea. Maybe a quiet junior who doesn't show up much. A few shrugged and returned inside to continue their conversations, deeming the match unremarkable. When Tekka finished counting, Obito changed his breathing rhythm and went into flame breathing, watching Inaho closely, but Inaho stood perfectly still. Obito had never seen anyone fight by remaining motionless. It looked like a dozen openings. What's this tactic? Obito thought. Not wanting to be caught off guard, he chose a versatile opening, ninjutsu. Fire release, great fireball technique. Obito formed the seals, gathered chakra in his throat, performed nature transformation, and exhaled a torrent of flame. The flames merged into a massive orange-red fireball, nearly 4 meters across, hurtling straight for Inaho. Not knowing him or his tactics, Obito relied on the dependable great fireball. Inaho's face betrayed surprise. He remembered his own great fireball at full power was about this size, and Obito was only 9, while Inaho was 13. He'd underestimated the boy's fire release. At this age, he can use the great fireball? He must be a ninjutsu prodigy, Inaho thought, deciding he would focus any guidance he offered on taijutsu. There wasn't much to teach about fire release to someone this gifted. Does anyone know anything about him? To use a great fireball like that, murmured others nearby. Some assumed Obito was older but small. Tekka stepped forward to correct them. His name is Uchiha Obito. He's 9 this year, same as me. Uchiha Obito? I heard that name. Wasn't he the one who was dead last in the clan? Someone said, recalling an old rumor about a poor-performing student. Dead last? That can't be. This 9-year-old can use a great fireball? Tekka felt conflicted. He'd known Obito as a poor student, but here the boy was, exceeding expectations. Inaho responded with his own fire release. Fire release, great fireball technique. The 2 titanic fireballs collided with a deafening blast, scorching the ground and drawing every Uchiha out of the house. Fugaku and Yashiro exchanged impressed looks. This Obito has exceptional fire release, Fugaku said, surprised to find a talent like this now. He had intended to watch Shisui, but Obito had stolen the show. Rare even for our clan, Yashiro agreed. Fugaku resolved to award Obito a B-rank fire release ninjutsu as recognition. After canceling each other's fireballs, Inaho closed distance, expecting taijutsu to be Obito's weakness. But his movement looked slow to Obito. Maybe Inaho was feigning it. Flame breathing, total concentration breathing. Obito shifted his breathing and heightened his physical power. He focused chakra in his feet and burst forward with terrifying speed, delivering a whirlwind kick he had practiced with Metkai. Inaho barely had time to react. Before he knew it, a blur of motion had struck him. He was kicked 4 meters away and slammed to the ground, dazed. Who was this boy? Inaho felt his mind scramble. Obito's balance of ninjutsu mastery and now such practiced taijutsu made him wonder if the boy had been training since birth. Obito, too, was puzzled. I haven't made much progress in taijutsu recently, so why did he go down so easily? He wondered, looking at Inaho struggling to rise. Spectators were stunned. Inaho was a known rising star. He'd come to exchange meetings every year since becoming a genin, frequently challenging older Uchiha. To see him so easily bested by someone who looked 10 at most shocked everyone. When did a genius like this appear in the clan? They whispered. His name is Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Obito. Rumors swelled until the whole courtyard knew the name. Tekka tried to rationalize it. Maybe Inaho was careless. It's his first time facing Obito, he told himself. But Inaho recovered, now cautious and serious. He no longer treated Obito as a junior. He regarded him as an equal. Oblivious to Inaho's new caution, Obito concluded Inaho had actually been weaker than expected. The first exchanges hadn't been clever tactics. Inaho simply wasn't as strong. Obito pressed the advantage, charging in under total concentration breathing. Inaho fought more carefully, but it wasn't enough. He was floored again. Realizing he couldn't win in close combat, Inaho switched tactics back to ninjutsu. Fire Release, Phoenix Sage Fire Technique. Fire Release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson. Obito countered. Inaho's technique, enhanced with shuriken, should have hit hard, but Obito nullified it and even sliced Inaho with high-temperature shuriken. Inaho's eyes widened. Obito had mastered that technique too. It wasn't just that his taijutsu was strong. His ninjutsu matched it. Obito seized the moment, knocked Inaho down, pinned him, and pressed a kunai to his neck. "This should count as my win, right?" he asked casually. The advanced fire-release ninjutsu he sought felt easily earned now. He briefly wondered what would have happened if Inaho had used his Sharingan, but Inaho didn't. "Uchiha Obito wins," Tekka announced finally. His expression was a tangle of surprise, sadness, and confusion. Inaho, on the ground, felt equally mixed. He'd come to guide a junior and ended up being schooled by him. "Are you all right? Do you want me to take you to the hospital?" Obito offered, extending his hand with genuine concern. He respected Inaho for the fight and for helping him earn that advanced technique. "Inaho ni took my win from me and trained me at the same time," Obito thought, smiling faintly when Inaho took his hand and stood. "No need, it's just a scratch. I'll be fine after some rest," Inaho said, walking toward the house for a little solitude. Tekka patted his shoulder. He understood the sting of being bested in front of everyone. Even he had been defeated by Obito, something he still couldn't fully accept. Yashiro sighed. "I thought Obito might be the next Inaho, but he's already surpassed him." Fugaku nodded. "We should invest more resources in Uchiha Obito and cultivate his sense of loyalty to the clan. A talent like Obito needed nurturing. In 10 years, he could become a reliable force." After the match, several younger Uchiha approached Obito, asking about his training. He answered as best he could, and in the process met many of his clanmates. The exchange meeting had begun oddly. The morning had been uneventful, but in the late afternoon, a new prodigy had stepped forward and captured the Uchiha's attention. 278. The Genius Among Geniuses, Uchiha Shisui. Seeing that Obito had drawn so many Uchiha into conversation, Shisui decided to fight as well, to draw more attention. The Uchiha respected strength. If you were strong enough and hadn't betrayed the clan, you earned their respect. To prove himself, Shisui chose an opponent who wasn't weak. He ignored those without chuunin vests and picked an Uchiha who looked about 14. "Hello, senior. I'm Uchiha Shisui. I challenge you," Shisui said and stepped forward. In most places that would be abrupt, but this was an Uchiha clan gathering. Directness was the rule. "Uchiha Shisui?" The chuunin eyed him thoughtfully. He recognized the name, Shisui, the prodigy who had already been talked about in the clan. Common kids only learned basic ninja knowledge, chakra refinement, and simple ninjutsu at the academy, but clan members trained within their houses before joining the school. The Uchiha started children on chakra basics and the Great Fireball technique as early as 4 or 5. Shisui had learned the Great Fireball at an astonishing pace. His reputation as a genius had spread. "So it's the clan's little genius. I'm Uchiha Chihiro. I accept," Chihiro said after a moment's thought. He'd planned another match, but fighting Shisui wouldn't take long, he figured. After all, Shisui had barely started formal training. A chuunin like him would win easily. "Yoshiteru, you'll be the referee," Chihiro told his friend Uchiha Yoshizane. Shisui moved into the open space, ready. Nearby, Yoshizane asked, "Chihiro, weren't you going to fight Taishi?" "I'll do Taishi afterward. He's a junior who hasn't graduated academy yet," Chihiro replied with a smile. "Don't be careless. Inaho just lost to Obito, who just graduated. These geniuses can't be judged by ordinary standards," Yoshizane warned. "It's different. Obito's had a couple more years of training than Shisui. How strong can an academy student be, even a genius?" Chihiro shrugged. If Shisui had been 2 years older, he would have been cautious, but the age gap seemed decisive. Word spread, another match was starting, and this one looked like an even bigger age difference than the last. Many Uchiha leaned in to watch. "Isn't that Uchiha Shisui? I heard he's a genius. I wonder what he'll show." Shisui's popularity ran high in the clan. Many recognized him. He only started the academy last year. No matter how talented, can he beat a chuunin already? Most favored the chuunin Chihiro. Shisui's reputation was known, but his training time was short. "Fugaku, what do you think?" Uchiha Yashiro asked. He too expected Chihiro to win. "Hard to say," Uchiha Fugaku admitted, not committing. He hadn't seen Shisui train up close. He had Shisui called over because he wanted to see the boy for himself. "Battle start," Yoshizane announced as he took his place. Shisui immediately entered flame-breathing and charged. Chihiro, surprised by Shisui's speed, dropped some of his earlier contempt and engaged in close-quarters combat. Their fists and feet met constantly. On the surface they seemed evenly matched, but a closer look showed Shisui was blocking most of Chihiro's attacks, while Chihiro failed to stop many of Shisui's blows. "In Taijutsu, he's no match," Shisui concluded silently. He hadn't even gone into total concentration breathing yet. "How does he have that speed and power?" Chihiro wondered. Taijutsu was supposed to take the longest to develop. "Is this going to be like the last fight? This Shisui's genius is overblown," some watchers muttered as Chihiro found himself suppressed by the academy student. "Shisui is that strong?" Uchiha Tekka was stunned. He'd known Shisui stronger than himself, but not to the point of overpowering a chuunin at such a young age. Tekka remembered Shisui's ninjutsu was said to outstrip his taijutsu. If his taijutsu looked like this, his ninjutsu must be even more extreme. Chihiro, not wanting to slug it out in taijutsu, retreated, threw a shuriken, formed hand signs, and used ninjutsu. Fire release, great fireball technique, Kue. He condensed chakra in his throat and spat out a massive stream of flame that coalesced into a nearly 3-meter-high great fireball hurtling toward Shisui. Flame breathing, total concentration breathing. Shisui silently pushed his breathing to the limit and answered with his own great fireball. His was over 4 meters high, bigger and stronger, and the two fireballs collided in a vicious explosion that threw dancing shadows of flame across the faces of the watching clan. When identical ninjutsu clash, the stronger user prevails. Shisui's fireball overpowered Chihiro's and continued barreling toward him. Chihiro watched his full power attack fail, and his expression darkened. He felt years of training had been wasted. His ninjutsu and taijutsu both lagged behind Shisui's. "That great fireball is stronger than Obito's or Inaho's. How did he train like this?" the crowd murmured, more shocked than before. Ninjutsu carries an impressive visual impact, and what they'd just seen was staggering. Even elders like Fugaku and Yashiro wore expressions of disbelief. "If I'm not mistaken, Shisui just finished his first year at the academy and isn't even 7 years old," Yashiro said, astonished. He had tried to overestimate the boy, and still found himself proven wrong. "Shisui's talent may surpass senior Kagami's," Fugaku murmured, both surprised and thrilled. Two prodigies, Shisui and Obito, had appeared suddenly, and Shisui's gifts seemed extraordinary. Fugaku couldn't help but think that if Shisui continued like this, and with the lineage of senior Kagami, he might even have a shot at Hokage one day. The thought lifted something in him. The Uchiha clan could flourish again. Having lost the ninjutsu exchange, Chihiro tried to dodge the incoming fireball, but Shisui didn't give him space. Using incredible speed, body flicker technique, Shisui seized the opening, knocked Chihiro to the ground in one smooth move, and pressed a kunai to his opponent's body. "Uchiha Shisui wins," Yoshizane announced, if a little reluctantly. "Thank you for the match, senior," Shisui said politely and helped Chihiro to his feet. "You didn't let me win. You're the most talented person I've ever seen," Chihiro admitted, surprised but gracious in defeat. "I told you to be careful. These geniuses make the impossible look easy," Yoshizane said, patting his friend's shoulder. Chihiro had no answer. Even if he fought again, he felt he'd make the same choices. Who would have expected an academy student to be this strong? Shisui's performance stunned the Uchiha who had been watching. Hearing rumors that he picked up ninjutsu quickly and was a prodigy was one thing. Seeing him beat a chuunin before he was 7 was another. Among the Uchiha, genius was a title not handed out lightly. There were simply too many outstanding shinobi in the clan. To the outside world, the Uchiha were all elite, which was why mediocre members like Obito were mocked as last of the clan. What Shisui showed today made everyone present agree he was a genius even among geniuses. Shisui, you're already that strong. Why aren't you graduated yet? The teachers at the academy can't teach you anything useful, Uchiha Chihiro asked, bewildered. If Shisui had become a genin, others might have been more cautious around him in a fight. The rest of the Uchiha, prompted by Chihiro, looked at Shisui with renewed curiosity. Why would someone of his caliber still be at the academy? Graduating early gives you more control of your time, and you can join the police force to serve the clan, Chihiro added, listing the obvious benefits. He truly couldn't stand the idea of a talent like Shisui wasting time on classroom study when he could be getting stronger. Shisui paused, thoughtful. He'd once considered skipping ahead after his first year, but after consulting Mu Yue, he'd changed his mind. There's still stuff I need to learn at school, he said. I've only been there a year. Fighting isn't the whole of being a shinobi. Chihiro scowled. What's the point of that theoretical stuff? Strength is what matters. If you had the power of Senju Hashirama, you could be Hokage without any of that theory. He sounded pained, thinking of a prodigy being stuck in classes. Chihiro's right, Uchiha Yoshizane agreed. Don't focus on theory. It's useless. Powerful ninjutsu and taijutsu are what count. Yoshizane had always treated those lessons as meaningless during his own school days. Shisui wanted to respond that strength alone wouldn't save the Uchiha, that knowledge and wisdom were important too, but he held back. He was still a clan genius, not a clan leader. Saying such things would mark him as odd and earn no support. The only reason I stay is that studying doesn't interfere with my growth in strength, he finally explained. Chihiro and Yoshizane were left speechless. Shisui could still attend the academy and yet defeat a chuunin. His talent and power spoke for themselves. As word spread, more clan members came to talk with Shisui. While he answered questions about cultivation, he quietly asked the things he wanted to know. How do you deal with strange looks on the street? One Uchiha shrugged. Who cares? Maybe they're just jealous of the clan's strength. We are Konoha's strongest noble family. Shisui made a mental note of that answer without much comment. After you get assigned to a squad, how do you get along with your teammates? Aren't you worried you won't get along? Another asked with a smile. No one dislikes a strong teammate, Shisui said simply. Just be yourself. If someone annoys you, ignore them. The man seemed normal enough, and Shisui nodded. His third interlocutor was Uchiha Inaho. Senior Inaho, can you tell me about the police force? Shisui asked. As the department fully controlled by the Uchiha, the police force's affairs were, in practice, clan affairs. Inaho thought for a moment. Mainly maintaining public order and arresting offenders, he said. He gave examples. Illegal stalls, street fights, even murderers harming villagers. Those were all under their jurisdiction. Major incidents are rare, most of it's minor stuff, but you treat small matters seriously to establish authority. That makes future enforcement easier. So it's not easy, Shisui sighed. The police force handled everything from petty vendors to serious crime. It's fine. Everyone there is clan brothers. If you want to relax, you can, Inaho said lightly. Shisui noted how organically the police force tied into the clan's power. It wasn't unusual for a single clan to control such a powerful institution. Even the old Senju hadn't monopolized departments like this. What worried him was the apparent assumption. The Uchiha believed they should be the sole keepers of the police force. He kept asking more clan members to get a broader sense of their attitudes. There was good and bad. The good, the younger Uchiha weren't as extreme as he'd feared. No one was plotting to overthrow Konoha and seize the title of Hokage. The bad, the clan adored the police force, which was composed entirely of Uchiha, and took pride in that exclusivity. They also tended to disregard outsiders and valued strength above almost everything else. When the exchange meeting ended, Shisui and Obito were summoned by Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Yashiro. Uncle Fugaku, is something wrong? Shisui asked. He wanted to go home, sort out what he'd learned, then go to Mu Yue's place to train. Fugaku smiled and gestured for them to sit. Nothing important, just wanted to talk, he said. Shisui, when do you plan to graduate and become a shinobi? He asked. The Academy's early graduation exam existed for geniuses like Shisui, a tougher test than the regular one, but clearly an option. Shisui repeated what he had told Chihiro. Fugaku nodded, unconcerned. Given your age, it's all right to stay at the Academy a while longer. Then he praised him. Your talent is extraordinary. Watching you fight just now reminded me of Senior Kagami's spirit. Fugaku's words reinforced Shisui's own conviction. He intended to achieve what his grandfather could not. Obito looked at Uchiha Yashiro with eager eyes. Uncle Yashiro, will you teach me some advanced fire release? He asked bluntly. He'd come to the exchange meeting for one thing, the reward. Yashiro smiled at Obito's straightforwardness. We won't be stingy with a talent like you. I'll give you fire release techniques, he said. Keep training and don't slack off. Obito scratched his head. He could remember the promise of a reward, but not the details. All right, I'll take the fire release, he agreed, careful not to jeopardize the reward. With your strength, passing the chuunin exams shouldn't be a problem. If you become a chuunin, the clan can place you directly in the police force, Yashiro added. For someone like Obito, becoming a chuunin was the fastest route into the police force, where many seniors could mentor him. I'll also teach you all the fire release I know. Obito shook his head. I don't want to join the police force. I'd prefer missions outside the village, travel and fight abroad, he said. Yashiro was taken aback. It was the first time he'd seen an Uchiha refuse an invitation into the police force. He tried to extol the benefits, clan brothers as colleagues, smooth promotion, real authority, but Obito felt a headache rising. He politely steered the conversation back to ninjutsu. He only wanted to get stronger. Sounds like he's obsessed with cultivation, Yashiro mused, and dropped the police force pitch. Whether Obito joined or not, he remained an Uchiha shinobi. Fire release, great dragon fire technique could suit you at this stage, Yashiro offered. I already know that one. Anything else? Obito hoped for something different. Yashiro thought for a moment. There were advanced fire techniques, but many weren't appropriate for Obito yet. I'll consider it. Once the reward is decided, I'll send it to your house, he promised after consulting Fugaku. Obito left satisfied. He'd at least secured a promised reward. Since Shisui needed to organize what he'd learned, Obito went to the south border forest to train. He thought of Kakashi quietly doing his drills while Obito had been at the exchange meeting and quickened his pace. He found Kakashi practicing total concentration breathing and joined him, training hard until they only stopped to eat at 1 o'clock. I have to go out for a bit later. You two can keep training by yourselves for now, Mu Yue told them. He had a meeting with Teacher Chen at 2 p.m. and needed to leave. He'd entrusted the Academy's routine matters to his shadow clone. Is it about the Academy? Obito asked. The Academy was starting soon, after all. No, it's a discussion with Teacher Chen, Mu Yue replied. He'd left the daily chores to his clone. Teacher Chen? The guy's instructor, right? Obito had heard the name. Kakashi had teased him earlier for not knowing. Can I come along? I want to see Konoha's strongest taijutsu user. In Obito's head, the image was already monstrous, a terrifying 2-meter-tall, muscular man with explosive strength. Mu Yue considered, then nodded. It wasn't a big deal. Obito could come. Mu Yue had a habit of arriving early. The meeting was set for 2, but he and Obito showed up at 1:50. Genma, Ebisu, Guy. Obito called cheerfully as he saw the 3 training. They stopped and looked over, then noticed Mu Yue beside him. Teacher Mu Yue and Obito, what brings you here? Shiranui Genma asked, puzzled. He hadn't heard the earlier conversation between Teacher Chen and Metkai. He only knew something about training. Teacher Mu Yue and your sensei have something to talk about. By the way, where's your sensei? I don't see him. Obito scanned the area and couldn't find the muscular man he expected. Isn't he under that tree over there? Genma pointed. Beneath a nearby tree sat Teacher Chen, reading. Obito followed the finger and squinted at the figure, a middle-aged man in a plain yellow jacket and matching tights, an unassuming, almost slovenly look about him. That's Teacher Chen? Obito asked, suspicious. Up close, the man didn't look like the strongest taijutsu user in Konoha at all, just an ordinary, middle-aged uncle with a faintly lecherous smile. Before Genma could answer, Teacher Chen's keen senses had folded his book away, and he was suddenly beside Obito. So fast, Chen said. Obito's pupils constricted. He hadn't even seen how Chen had moved. Mu Yue put a hand on Obito's shoulder and smiled. "Hello, senior. I'm Hayate Mugetsu." Teacher Chen studied him a moment, nodded, and offered a brief introduction of himself. Then, with a look, Chen motioned Mu Yue aside. This was a matter he didn't want the students to overhear. He wanted to question Mu Yue's training methods and spare both men any embarrassment. Once they stepped away, Chen spoke without ceremony. "You contributed in a battle with a Jinchuriki, so you're clearly capable. But do you understand the danger of overtraining? The body has limits. The damage might not show now, but by middle age, the consequences could be severe." "You're pushing Guy too hard," Chen continued. "What I've seen already exceeds what an ordinary body should endure." Mu Yue's expression stayed calm. He smiled politely. "First, thank you for your concern for Guy." Chen peered at him. He wanted reasons, not thanks. "If it were an ordinary person, you'd be right. No one should do this much." Mu Yue nodded. "If he were ordinary, yes, but Guy isn't ordinary. He's exceptionally talented at Taijutsu, and his endurance is far above average." Might Guy's strength came largely from effort, but his physical endurance was genuinely better than most. Mu Yue explained that without the hard work, Guy would be average, but with it he could rival the geniuses. Chen remained skeptical. "Even so, that volume of training is reckless." Mu Yue replied, "I also use a secret medicine that removes fatigue and restores the body. Guy's natural endurance combined with this recovery makes the training appropriate for him." Chen raised an eyebrow. He had his own training medicines, but none that worked so well. "What medicine is that? How can it be that strong?" "It's not sold on the market." Mu Yue shook his head. Chen couldn't buy what Mu Yue described anywhere in the Shinobi world. The explanation was vague, and for a moment Chen didn't know whether to believe him. Then Mu Yue added, "Guy is also training in the 8 gates. You know that forbidden jutsu, don't you?" 8 gates, huh? Chen's expression grew thoughtful. No wonder his aura sometimes surges when we spar. The gates remove the body's limits. The stronger the body, the less damage opening the gates does, and the greater the gate's power. Mu Yue left the implication there. Chen, who'd practiced taijutsu for decades, understood exactly what Mu Yue meant. Convinced, he considered the picture Mu Yue painted: Guy's exceptional endurance, recovery medicine, and gates training. "Guy wants to become top tier," Mu Yue said finally. "His ninjutsu talent is ordinary. Only taijutsu can carry him. That's why I push him." The words made Chen fall silent. He thought of another pupil of his, someone even worse off than Guy in terms of ninjutsu talent. That boy had nothing. He couldn't learn ninjutsu or genjutsu, and could only rely on taijutsu. Chen had been moved by his perseverance and had taken him on, intending to teach everything he knew. But even so, that student hadn't yet learned the Leaf Dragon God. "You're a good teacher," Chen said, coming back from his thoughts. "No wonder Guy respects you." Mu Yue smiled and returned the compliment. Then he did what he had come to do. He challenged Chen. "I've heard you're called Konoha's strongest taijutsu ninja. May I have the chance to test that strength?" Chen waved a hand. "Strongest, huh? That's just talk. If we were really debating, the third Hokage's taijutsu would beat mine. Still, sure, let's spar." Chen clearly expected that someone who'd taught Guy and understood taijutsu that well couldn't be weak. He agreed after a moment's thought. "Do it here, or do you want another spot? Let the kids watch. There's value in seeing a real shinobi fight." "That's fine," Mu Yue nodded. "We'll stop before anyone gets seriously hurt." Chen returned to his students. "Mu Yue and I are going to spar. Watch closely. Learn what a real shinobi battle looks like." "Mu Yue against Teacher Chen?" Genma said in surprise. It seemed a bit unfair. The man known as Konoha's strongest taijutsu facing a special jonin who taught in the academy. "No, Teacher Mu Yue is someone who can defeat a jonin." Genma quickly amended as he remembered Obito's mission stories. Still, facing the one called the strongest carried weight. Chen arched an eyebrow. "What, do you have something to say?" he teased, not realizing Genma's internal trepidation. Chen was the sort to set difficult tasks sometimes, and Genma didn't want to get volunteered. Ebisu pushed his glasses up as he remembered the terrifying force of the Leaf Dragon God and worried that Mu Yue might be in for a rough match. Obito, however, looked pleased to have come along. He had complete confidence in Mu Yue. He didn't think Chen could win against him, not with Mu Yue's taijutsu. Metkai watched closely too. The most impressive battle he'd seen so far was Mu Yue and Maito Dai fighting with the 6 gates open. He wondered whether this would top that. Most of all, he was curious how Mu Yue would deal with Chen's leaf dragon god. Its slicing wind was hard to close with, and if you couldn't get close, how would you break it? They picked a spot at a medium distance from the students, close enough to see, but far enough that the spectators wouldn't get hurt by any stray attacks. "Battle start!" Obito shouted, acting as the announcer.